and welcome to this week's episode of A Bazaar podcast. As per usual, you can find us here on YouTube as well as on Spotify, via Apple Podcast, or via RSS feed for your podcast listening app of choice. Sixten's still away on his vacation. Hopefully, he's having a wonderful time. But in the meantime, you'll be joined by me, MetallFenix, and my co host, Walter,
Hi.
as well as the guest of the week, Whisperzz. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell people a bit about you if they are unfamiliar?
Hi guys, this is Whisperzz. Yeah, I mainly play Pig in the Bazaar. This is pretty much my hobby. I do have a day job, but I do stream.
Where can they find your stream?
So basically, it's Whisper double Z underline live. That is the Twitch ID.
All right, and we'll make sure to put that in the show notes as well. So
Yep, it'll be in the description as per
Yeah.
usual. Nice and easy link.
Yep.
Yeah, and what have you been playing this week?
I'm like mostly Pig, right? So I mostly play Pig. I don't know. My go-to builds are usually high value property builds, but they are a bit more difficult to have successful runs with because a lot of changes happened. So still waiting for potential adjustments in the future. So.
Yeah. Have you mostly been playing Pygmalion while the game's been out, or have you been bouncing between a few characters?
So when the game started, actually when I started playing the game somewhere in closed beta, I did play all the characters. I did play Dooley and Vanessa quite a bit. I really enjoyed when Railgun was having multicast. It was pretty easy to get legend with. Yeah, but I haven't really played a lot of Mac. I don't know, like Mac didn't really appeal to me. I tried playing a couple of games. I don't know. I was probably too used to Pig, and I felt I was having some cash flow issues. So
Yeah, I mean, I think Mac can, depending on which point in time you played him, he definitely has had points where his economy was really hard, and he had other patches where his economy was really strong, like OP. So it's so depending on which patch you played Mac, yeah, I could definitely see you thinking like, oh yeah, this guy has no money. But I will say that hasn't been the case for every patch on Mac, and some of them he was quite rich actually.
Yeah, especially the patch for Peace Rot was really
Yeah.
OP. I think, in my opinion, that's probably been the strongest economy option anyone has ever had in the game. Just
Maybe, I mean, there is like
it's I've never played another character where it just felt like starting on a pretty early day, I just always had infinite money.
That's true. I mean, it was really insane, like that
Yeah.
that implementation of
I
Peace
guess
Rot was
it's actually pretty rare for proper economy items to Mac is the only one who really has like real economy at bronze, I feel. I guess Vanessa and Dooley don't even really have real economy items per se.
I mean, they just have like the item generators, right? They're like the simplest possible. So like if you think about it, it's almost like if you imagine like cash register schematics, um like fishing rod, like they're all kind of the same item, right? They're like a medium item that
yeah, but the
prints like a
difference
small
is
item.
for Dooley and Vanessa, these items are actually making you stronger, and a lot of them are part of your end game builds. Meanwhile, for Pig, for
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
example,
But that's the difference between them is like pig gets the more pure economy. Like the pig one makes two, like it makes two gold, like the bronze one, where you compare that to a fishing rod, you only get like if you sell the item, you only get 1 gold, right? So yeah, of course they get cards that are more like cards, and Pig gets cards that are more like money, and that's because he's the economy themed character. Like to me, like that is like like that's like what makes them different, but still balanced. Is that like Pig gets an extra coin, but Pig's coins can't be played, or like I mean, obviously they have more utility because of Money Tree and whatever else, but yeah, to me that's like the that like is balance or whatever.
What about you, Walter? You haven't played a ton this week, but what
Yeah,
have you had
I
fun
had
with?
some real life stuff going on, but Um, I have been playing mostly Pig. I would say I'm doing pretty well, but I just didn't get the chance to play as much as I'd like to this week. It's been, to be honest, the meta has been a little stale.
Yeah,
I don't think that's like, we're that's not a revolutionary opinion.
not a super hot
Um,
take.
yeah. So like I don't feel like I was super missing out. Sometimes in life there's just other stuff you gotta take care of, and for me that was this week. So yeah. But
Yeah,
I still enjoyed my pig games, even though he's not the best, but it's fine.
yeah, I definitely think while it would be fun to have something fresh, and I mean, by next week's podcast, we'll have gotten our wish and we'll have lots to talk about. But I still do think at least something that is very nice with Dooley right now, and it's more or less been what I've said every week this season, is that at least they did solve his issues with build variety in a pretty fun way, especially that overlap that kind of lets you get into a lot of different builds, like kinetic cannon. I learned the name this time, but like kinetic cannon and hydrogen hammer a lot of the time have some
Nitrogen hammer.
overlap on how to nitrogen. That one, now I'm getting that one wrong instead. It's impossible. I need
Wrong
a
element.
Dooley
Excuse.
dictionary.
You may need to recount the number of protons in that hammer.
Yeah. It's hydrogen press, nitrogen hammer.
No, it's
That's
hydraulic
hydraulic. Yeah,
press.
that's not even okay. Yeah, I'm completely lost. It's I swear I don't know if
Listen,
this is
okay, I don't want to come over like, listen, you guys are speaking English. It's not your first language. I don't mean to come off as like I'm just laughing at you guys for
no.
English
That's so
fails. I'm
fair. I
sorry.
I need to know if this is like an actual medical condition. If someone knows, write in chat. But I swear I'm like name dyslexic. I have no
Yeah,
issues.
I actually think that is a real thing, like
Right,
a real
like
condition.
other
Yeah.
words that aren't names of things, I very rarely get confused. But names, and apparently names for dually items in particular. When I played a lot of League of Legends, I'd always call champs the wrong thing. People always got mad at me. It's only when I
Yeah. I mean,
taught too. I don't know. Name dyslexic. There you go. That's my self-diagnosed medical
that's
condition.
fine.
uh,
I think that's allowed for this.
yeah.
So I mean, it kind of does lead into like, because it's been a little bit stale, like we having as our topic, like wanting what we want from the game in the future, like what is our wish list, I
Yeah,
think
I
is
think we
really.
can talk a bit about that. I still feel like there are things worth saying in the state of the meta as well. So this episode won't be all theory, but since it's been what 2 weeks, two weeks and 2 days since the last
Yeah, it
time
was,
we got
yeah.
real balance changes. Was that when did they nerf? It was when they nerfed Fizz
The
Mac was
last
the last time?
no, the last time was the rec specs change, right?
Was that
Or
in
was
the
that the
same
same
patch?
patch?
I think that was the same patch.
Okay,
But do we
yeah.
have a date
So
on
I
that?
think
Anyways, it's been a while. That's the
it's been a
point.
long time since there was a balance change. The most recent
It's
patch
yeah.
was just the client fix, or the launcher update, I guess I should
Mhm.
say, and the bug fix with ties.
Yeah.
So it's been a while since there's new content. So
But that's why we thought it would be perfect to have a little fun time. So this will be half just throwing things out there that we think sounds fun. It'll be half, especially Whisperzz, since Pygmalion is in a rougher spot compared to Dooley, has some actual real kind of wish list stuff for things to have changed, and then we can maybe do some slight predictions to us for what we'll actually see in the coming patch. But I think we can. You can start us off on your little list, Whispers. That felt like the perfect entry point.
Yeah, sure. So basically, first thing I would like to see, and is not specifically related to pig, it's just like a general issue. I think it's pretty annoying. For example, Mandala, I think it should not transform items into other items that cannot have the same enchant.
Oh,
Because
that's a good one. Yeah.
it feels
interesting.
really bad. Like I do enjoy playing a small enchanted item, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it feels so bad and disheartening to get your enchanted item start, like you based your start on that, or at least on the enchant it offers, not necessarily the item,
This was
and then you
interesting. I know you
transform it.
said you didn't really play much Mac, but actually this is something that happens to Mac a lot too with potion distillery because shrinking potion doesn't has like almost no enchants or whatever, it doesn't have all the enchants. So you get your enchants also like and also because Mac has a lot of enchanted small things
Mm-hmm.
that you would roll into a potion, you often lose your enchants to shrinking potion when you use like potion distillery. So I think it should. I actually really like the change. Um, they would have to. It should be a change to the transform mechanic, total, itself, not just to Mandala. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It should
yeah.
apply in all
But that makes sense. They're
circumstances. Yeah.
probably coded to function the same way
Yeah,
I
they probably are.
expect.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't.
Okay, so what do you think would be the more fun, good, interesting implementation where I can see like two options, right? Either it can only roll into something that can have the enchant, or they could maybe in theory make it so that if you roll it into something that can't have the enchant, it gets a random enchant instead that that item can have.
Uh, I don't know about random enchant. Like, there are enchants that, especially for pig, right? Anything that gives you damage, you are really interested in that most of the times. So, or let's say you have a golden small item. For some
Mhm.
reason, you found it in the shop is not exactly what you want, right?
Right.
So you are hoping maybe for an abacus because it works very well with economy generating stuff. But you get like, I don't know, bandages. So it feels really bad.
So do you think the solution then could also just be like to add the enchants or everything? Because I would also think that like, what if they just made Obsidian Piggy Bank could do something interesting? Like, I'm not even sure
I
what
don't
that
mind
thing.
that. Don't get
You
me
wouldn't
wrong, I
mind that
don't mind
either.
that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think that may ultimately end up being the route they go. Just because I think that probably doesn't require as much
I
work
give you
for
a
them.
coin that
Yeah.
gives you, I don't know, 5 damage when you
Yeah,
sell it.
exactly. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
It would
Something like that.
be very funny. I don't think they will do this because I also think it would be kind of stupid. But if you made it so that Obsidian Piggy Bank, like at the start of the fight, dealt like 10x its value or something, you just set
That
up
would be sick.
the Piggy Bank TK by just making it have infinite value.
I mean, that would like be kind of awesome, right? Like I would actually love if I mean we talked about it a little bit on the episode with Toby that like we like interesting enchants.
Yeah.
So like an enchant that like if I situationally get this piggy bank and I actually spent the whole game like upping this piggy bank, maybe I actually could like start of combat OTK my opponent
Hmm.
with a piggy bank that's worth 4,000. Do you know like maybe that
It would
actually
be
is
a
Would
possible.
very We need the final board that's just an obsidian piggy bank and nothing
Yeah,
else.
but how much of like an insane like high moment would that be if you actually pulled that off? And
Yeah,
like it could
it would
be
be very
in the
funny.
game if they it could be in the game, you know, if like if they went through and actually added some, like even if they seem like pointless, like to like for example, this morning I played Heavy Globe. It was awesome. It was sweet. I love Heavy Globe. You know what I mean? It's actually like such a strong item. Start of combat slow 3 for 5 seconds.
Yeah, I
It's
did
crazy.
really like when they made those changes to Globe, because the idea of making items not normally played on the board situationally playable on the board, that's really cool.
Yeah, I was like that was like a high probably that was the high point of my morning playing the Bazaar when I played this morning because I finally got a chance to play a bunch of runs this morning. So like it was getting to play an item I've literally never played on my board before
Yeah.
because I had this enchant, right? So like I think that's actually like I mean it's related to what your wish is, but it's like it could go either way, right? Like they could do it so that you know, you never get a bad like you never get a whiff on enchant items, which would be one way to do it. But also like, what if all the enchants were just cool? Like that
Yeah.
that would be another way to do it, and that would also be fun. So I just wanted to jump in there, but let's keep going down the
Yeah.
list because
What else
that
you
was a
got
really
for
good
us?
one.
That's a great one.
Yeah, I was expecting also some rework on some items, for example, this season, right? Because we had the season presentation with the first image being the space scraper, right? So
Ah,
I
yeah.
was really excited thinking, oh, they're gonna finally do something about space scraper, but they didn't really do that. So yeah, I was
Yeah.
hoping for some reworks or some adjustments. Like it feels that a lot of the other heroes have a lot of small items that do things on their own, right? And I
Yeah,
was
we
hoping,
can kind of mention, we were discussing this a little bit in the pre-show, but we were talking about the fact that the nerf to Ledger was by many accounts something fairly requested even among Pygmalion players, as there were many who just didn't really enjoy the sort of mini game of micromanagement that it forced onto you when it was really strong. But it is also notable that outside of VIP Pass, Ledger was the main way to consistently stack value on an item, at least if you want to get it to numbers high enough to be really relevant. And VIP Pass obviously only works with properties that are sufficiently fast to stack at a reasonable pace, like Money Tree, for example. So
or
there, which one did you say?
fixer upper.
Yeah, Fixer Upper is a good
Yeah, and
one.
Billboard like there's a
Yeah,
couple that it works
you
really
can.
well
It
with.
can
Yeah,
definitely work, but you notice there's like a somewhat suspicious ledger-shaped hole in Pygmalion's value stacking arsenal currently that has me almost wonder if maybe the upcoming Pig expansion on Wednesday might expand on properties in some way. Because it feels almost
yeah.
like they would
I
have.
wonder if they'll do
Yeah.
something like bring together the like Pen FT hypergreens in combat
Mm,
stacking with some kind of permanent stacking. So like have a um have a property that you would be like a value stack target like fixer, but that has the attribute like when it gains value in combat, it gains like a certain amount of that value permanently. So you could have something like that where, okay, so if I'm using my pen FT on my item, I'm getting a percentage of that pen FT value as permanent value, and then you could
mm.
like use that as a vehicle for enchants or whatever.
I think
So
the kind of other possibility too is that they could potentially also implement more items that care about the property tag. but that don't necessarily care about value. Like if you had
Like
items that,
Uwashawali.
right, more items like
Okay.
Ushawali Bird could also make it so that it was more viable to play some properties even when their numbers aren't high enough to like solo carry. I don't know. As the actual main pig player in the room, Whisperzz, what do you think would be most fun to get to do with properties?
Yeah, the problem is that right now a lot of properties were also nerfed. Like remember Hogwash, which was a very important nerf because it wasn't really in line with anything. I mean, it was like above everything else, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But now it feels very underwhelming, right, to play on the board because all the benefits you would get before, it was when you healed, right? They could have adjusted those numbers and work around that. But right now is any enchant you do on a Hogwash, it's when the Hogwash cast. So it's no longer appealing to play on the board. Like it's almost impossible to get a build going with Hogwash on the board. Also the same with Lemonade Stand. It's playable. I played a lot of builds like high value pig, at least high health pig, right? With Lemonade Stand, but it also feels very slow, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think lemonades. I actually don't have a problem with where lemonade stand is balance wise. I think as a card that I play all the time as a stash only card, I think it's plenty powerful as a stash only card without it needing to be better as a board card. Like it's already playable sort of as a board card, right? So again, it's kind of like similar to the Pig's Gym thing, where like in my mind, a card that gives you value in the stash almost like inherently should be like worse as a board card. Not in 100% of circumstances, but at least like some of the time like you should have to do more to make a stash card into a good board
I
card
think
if that
for
makes
me,
sense.
the one that's kind of the sweet spot is Pawn Shop, where you do need to put a lot of effort into making that be something you want to play on the board, but it's still a very clear, like, Pawn Shop on board builds are a pretty distinct part of Pygmalion's identity. Um, and I like it when those types of items are kind of like that. I used to like how there was a period on Vanessa where if you got Cove very early, you could make a Cove build. And then there was another period where if you get Force Field, you can still make a Cove build. But more and more, it's been feeling like you just never play Cove on board. And I think when that's where economy items end up, at least the ones that are like a bit more central to a character's identity or that have meaningful effects and cooldowns and stuff they're in theory supposed to be able to do, it always feels like a bit of a bummer because it's like in practice, this character just has less variety in terms of the things that you can end up doing.
Yeah, but like how good of a card like how good do they have to make the scaling on Cove to make like Cove a good Vanessa strategy? Like they'd have to probably buff it quite a bit, right?
So the big thing that changed was that Cove gets more value per item sold only at Diamond. Because when Vanessa came out, when this was a strategy, we had a lot of level up upgrades that just offered kind of unconditional upgrading, which meant that a lot of the time you would get Cove to Diamond pretty reliably early enough that you could actually stack it with this +2 per cell instead.
Yeah, this is like the patch where you get like levels 10 on day 7, right? This
It
is
was
that.
no. The biggest thing was that OG, there was level up your leftmost shield item and level up your leftmost
Okay, okay.
aquatic item. And
Okay.
because at least two, I don't remember if there was even a third, but at least two of Vanessa's level up your X item affected Cove. It meant that very reliably you could get, if you just found Cove at like silver, you'd upgrade it twice to get it to gold, to get it to diamond, and then the enhanced scaling would kick in early enough to be relevant. But it's like right now, Cove is literally, imagine if Silk only got buffed scaling at diamond and the
Yeah,
other two
I get why
upgrades,
it's
like,
I get
yeah.
why it's bad now. Like it just is, and also like you don't get near the number of tools to buy sell as Vanessa as you
Mm,
do on Pig too. Like I get why it's not good now.
yeah.
I was thinking back to like the couple patches where you had way more XP, and so you could get the diamond upgrade that way, like way earlier in the game. Like maybe like on day like 9, you could get to level 13 or whatever.
I think
Um,
what they theoretically could do that'd be interesting. I don't know if that's a type of design that they want to explore, but we already have items that get specific upgrades at specific intervals. It would be theoretically possible to have Cove be like, um, it gets a boost to the value at, honestly, even if they just moved it down to gold, I think that would work. Like if they just made it one at bronze and silver to not make Vanessa's economy completely broken, and then just made it two starting at gold, then I think if you use your level 7
gotcha.
upgrade on it, it could probably be a real build.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm for it. I think Cove is super fun card. Like,
Yeah, it was also, it filled a very interesting role of being another large active item that Vanessa could play. So half the reason why Cove was such a meta strategy was because you wanted to be allowed to play Captain's Wheel, and this gave you a really good way to play Captain's Wheel, to play Captain's Rush, to play all of these things. And it'd be cool to see like kind of that avenue of it come back as well.
okay. All right. Do we want to get back to Whisperzz list?
Yeah, what else you got?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing about
Mm-hmm.
properties. The problem is that there are right now way too many properties that their main role is to do stuff in your stash, right? So I have no problem with that,
Mm-hmm.
but it feels there are just too many. So you have Lemonade Stand, you have Pawn Shop to an extent because you can't really always play it on the board. It's mostly stash. You can decide to play it, like if you find a direction that involves high health, right? You have Gym as well, and then you have the properties that don't really or are very niche. You have
Mm-hmm.
Landscraper, which is, let's be honest, one of the worst properties right now.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
one's
yeah.
horrible.
And you have Vineyard. So Vineyard, yeah, it's very good, but it's not something you keep in your stash to stack. It's something you would like to play on the board because you have, I don't know, you have a money tree or you have like an obsidian bird or something that the plus value and plus healing will benefit you, right?
Yeah, I guess that's
So
kind of a big thing. I did notice when I was playing Pygmalion that now I didn't really play money tree builds either. When I was playing Pygmalion for some patches, it was a lot of the like pen of tea value stacking stuff or the freeze builds or those kinds of things. And it always felt like there was almost no difference. Like to me, pawn shop, gym, and money tree, they were all the same item. They were just a large piggy bank, basically, that I stack up and then sell. And it feels a little bit like on Pygmalion, especially because he has multiple ones, needing the ability to play them on the board is what gives him a more diverse identity. Because if they all just generate money, it's almost like they become the same item, right? In a way.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
you
I
also
would
have
argue
like
that two of those are more similar than the like tree and that tree and pawn shop are like similar to each other in a way, and that gym is a bit more like a lemonade stand in that it's like a car like you like yeah, it also recaps some of the value from the weapon buy sell, but when you have gym in your stash, like the like main reason, at least in my mind, is that I really want that extra HP from the like I want the arms dealer effect of it. Like that's where the real power of gym is, in my opinion. And in that capacity, it's a really strong item. It's just in the capacity of playing it on board, it's pretty terrible. There can be situations where it's good, like if you have like if it's on diamond and you have juggler or something, it can become really good. But like aside from those like cases where you have really good ways to charge it up, it's just so mega slow. I just think that like if it was also a good board item, it might be one of the best item. It's really hard because it's like what do you want from these items? Do you want them to be each one of them to be a build in and of themselves, or do you want them to be like a card you sometimes play? Because I think Gym right now
The
is a card
latter,
you
yeah.
sometimes play. Yeah, because like I don't know, like they could make Gym super good, right? They could lower the cooldown by like 2 or 3
I
yeah, but like
seconds.
him was always strong. I don't
yeah.
see the reason they did so many adjustments to it all of a sudden. Like it was in a state that was like okay, you stacked it, and at some point, if it was high enough, right, you play it on the board, and it's a valid item. And
Yeah,
it
but
was like this for a very long time.
wasn't the HP part of it worse?
Yeah, yeah,
I
no, of course, there were adjustments. So when they started to nerf it and
It might just
work around
be
cooldowns,
they might have just
They
overshot the
pushed
nerfs a
yeah, it's
little
like they
bit.
pushed the power of the item towards the stash side of the item and away from the board side of the item, and you're arguing that they over pushed it in that direction. And that's fair.
Yeah.
Like that's it's a matter of, of taste, of balance or whatever. Like I don't think it would be horrible if Jim was a little bit stronger on board. I think that would be fine. I think Jim is a build that people like and are excited about.
Hmm.
But like I think that yeah, it's just like these cards are still good, and especially like Lemonade Stand is a card that I really feel actually is like super good, and is just like kind of people don't understand it, people don't feel that they're losing to it because it's a stash item, right? But it's a
Yeah.
big reason why like your pig opponents have more HP than you. Not all the time, but it's part of the reason, right? So yeah, sorry, go ahead. I kind of that was it.
yeah. So the thing is that basically when we were discussing about drum, for example, so drum not being a property, because you have all these properties that are large items, they do specific things. So they have some utility, right? So we're talking about gym, lemonade stand, money tree, pawn shop. They're very good. It sometimes they're valid on the board, sometimes not. It's fine. But then you have these items, right? Vineyard is very specific. Land scraper is very bad. Space scraper the same. Then you have ice cream truck and windmill.
That one's
So
yeah.
windmill is such a bad item. Like if you
No
compare it
way.
with pendulum,
Disagree. Windmill is great. Why do you hate Windmill?
I
Windmill's
think
awesome.
it's so situational and like it's a large diamond only item that charges for 1 second. Like you compare it with pendulum that it's 2 seconds and it's both ways and it
Yeah,
doesn't
but
need to be
like
charged.
that's
So
okay, but you shouldn't want like every pig item to be as good as every Mac item because it's like Mac items are worse than pig items in other ways. Like that's what makes the characters have that's what makes the characters feel different from one another is that they have is that like what Mac gets to have and what Pig gets to have are not the same. And so that's what
No,
makes it
I'm
exciting when you
comparing
get an
like the
off-hero
size.
item.
So the size of the items, right?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like what Mac gets in a medium might be for that same kind of effect. Pig has to use a large diamond to get it because charge
Not
for Pig
even.
is such a scarce resource.
Not even. That's the thing. Like a large diamond only item being weaker than a medium, it feels kind of bad. That's my perspective.
Yeah, I think I
Well,
agree that I don't think any character should be balanced around needing to have larger items to give the same effect, because the actual result of that is that you end up with boards that are so congested space-wise that it's a lot harder to be expressive when making them.
yeah, but that's just like how that's just how like Pig is the large item aficionado. Like Pig just has large items. That's part
I
of
think
like the
that's
identity of
fine,
Pig.
but those items should then be as good as large items typically are, rather than being more
But they are
balanced
like
like a medium, right?
I'm telling you, Windmill is legit. Windmill is like a good card. It's you're right that it's like situational, but it's situational in that the thing that you're charging should be a really high impact item, right? And in that case, like the effect of making your item go faster is worth it.
I don't know.
That's
I tried playing Windmill at one point. It was on a silk board with like Crusher Claw or Spike Shield. I don't exactly
yeah.
remember. It was completely awful. I just died at 7. Like,
No, like I literally play that setup all the time and have success with it. So
yeah,
like
I don't know.
I think that it's like if you can make your items 1 second faster on certain boards like Silk, for example, that's totally worth it.
I think for
Um,
me, the big difference, right, is if you compare even within Pig, like, I feel like Fort is so much better than Windmill.
is for absolutely Ford is a better card than Windmill. I'm not arguing that, but I don't think that Windmill is in the same like conversation as Space Scraper. Space Scraper literally you couldn't pay me to put that on my board. It does nothing. Like like a card that's like a slow big like what is the point of it? Do you know what I mean? Like so like to me Windmill is a card that serves a purpose. It could be narrow, it could be like doing some like you're paying a big cost for a useful effect.
Well,
Space
that's
Scrapers,
fair
you're
enough.
paying a big cost for a
We
trash
can let
effect.
you have your Windmill Copium. I know that you are fairly high on that item. I haven't heard anyone else be it, but maybe
Well,
time will
it's
prove you
part
the
of it is
victor.
like you just don't encounter it that much,
I
right? It's
just
a
don't
diamond
think
starry
we
item.
don't need to hyper focus too much
Okay,
on. I don't think anyone is really up in arms about the windmill situation.
okay, fair enough.
No, I
Except
did
you,
play it
but
a couple
I'll
of
give you that.
times.
Yeah?
I did play the windmill with success, but it was like very specific. You needed like a
Right,
Yeah,
diamond.
right.
but that's okay. Is my point. Is like I'm not like I don't think that that's so horrible that it is very specific. I think a card like Space Scraper has like no good use. Do you know what I mean? It's just weak.
Yeah, I
You're
mean
like
it could be playable if you had like a previous iteration of Ledger, right? Because that's the main problem when you get like a decent property late in the game, right? So
Mm.
you get like a sub scraper, right? But you don't have a money tree or anything. You just have like a rewards card. It's insanely difficult to scale it. It's the same for the space scraper. It's bad. Of course it's bad. But you could do something with it if you had the previous ledger. Like
Yeah.
at any point in the game you could get some value pretty fast. But yeah, now it's yeah.
yeah, maybe the answer is some kind of event that allows or like some kind of item that you can sell to like transfer value
Yeah, that
between
would be cool.
items.
Yeah, yeah. No, that
Not sure
that's
how that would
actually
work, but
very on topic for the topic of the week, but that's a killer idea. The just having the fact that you would only be able to use it once creates a super interesting dynamic between, like, if you find not the ideal thing to transfer the value to, but you find that thing, do you go for it, or are you gonna dig for like what you think is the best thing to put the value on? That's
Yeah, like
cool. I like that.
an item that like when you sell it, like destroys your leftmost item and then creates like a item that when you sell it puts the value of the destroyed item onto the next item. Like something like that could.
I was thinking more like a one-time use thing where when you sell it, it transfers like a kind of how old truffles work, but instead of having that be truffles, you have a specific item that uniquely carries out that function.
Okay, so
Uh,
like a money tree kind of card that just when you sell it, it adds
It
its value to
yeah.
the. Okay, interesting.
And maybe like it adds the value to the thing instead of you getting value when you sell it.
Okay, interesting. So
So
it's kind
that
yeah.
basically, like, it means that you could be allowed to start stacking much earlier without it being too powerful because you still have to wait until you find the thing that you want to transfer the value onto.
Yeah, it would also be interesting if maybe there could be a card that's like when you sell this, instead of getting money, your leftmost weapon gets plus damage equal to its value.
Hmm.
And then it has some kind of way where it stacks its own value very high cheaply. So like do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like so that
that could be
it would be
interesting.
yeah, and
yeah,
then you get like an obsidian atlatl that's gonna solo
yes.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, but that would be cool though. Like, I mean, we're kind of just, that's the point of this topic. Like, we're kind of just brainstorming some stuff they could do to bring. Because
Yeah,
I
no,
do agree
it
with you that it's like hard
feels.
to bring the property stuff into your build
Yeah.
if you're not already starting from the early game stacking
Yeah, I
money
think the
tree.
problem is for pig at least, right? Is that you only have one property that actually does damage, right?
Oh
So
yeah,
we
yeah.
we also need a way to, let's say you have a 1000 value money tree, right?
Hmm.
If you fail on the enchant, like if you get nothing offensive, it does nothing. Like it's just an item on the board with a lot of healing that will lose you the fight if you don't have anything else, if you focused on it. So I would like to see something like, if you know the skill commercial zoning,
I was
right?
about to say, yeah, like commercial
Yeah,
zoning as an
like
item.
something for value. Like at
Hmm.
least, okay, I have a
Interesting. So like
1000.
like a hyper greens that did damage instead of healing.
Yeah, but maybe like property specific.
Well, I mean, yeah, they could make it like when you use the adjacent property, deal damage equal to its value, or whatever, like
Yeah,
as like a small item.
that would
Because
be
even if you
cool.
transfer the value, like you guys said, like you suggested, you still don't have properties that do any damage, right? It's
Yeah,
Well, but
just
it
the
yeah,
wouldn't have to
yeah.
space
be.
grid.
It wouldn't have to be a property though. You could like put it onto like kiosk or
Ah, okay.
whatever.
Yeah, that
So,
makes sense. Yeah.
so
I
like
Yeah.
was
maybe
thinking
you could.
just property specific.
It's kind of similar, right? How to, I think one of the coolest things about the design of Peace Wrought is the fact that it's an item that, due to the non-linear way that it accrues value, it was possible to get into that build much later than many other metascaling options.
Yep.
Because if you just ate like a legendary item, that compensates for like the whole early game of another metascaling item.
Yeah, that was a cool. I mean
Yeah.
that again. That would be like a prime candidate for something that could like literally like I could destroy an item like in a piece rot way and then turn
Hmm.
that into like gold that I could put like imagine if I had an item that could like turn my legendary into a 50 gold truffle
Yeah,
that I could then put
basically.
50 gold worth of value on anything. Like that would be so cool. Like I don't know. Well, I mean, here's the thing is maybe this podcast will be amazing and we perfectly predicted the next pig pack. Maybe it's like this is the toys pack and we're completely off base. So who
It's very
who knows?
possible, yeah. But I think
They
it's
might be toy
fun to
maxing
think
and
about, right?
yeah.
And I do think it's like a good way of highlighting. It's kind of quests serve to solve a similar issue, right? Where if you get a quest item a bit later because you only need to get it to completion, it's not going to mean that you're behind for the rest of the game compared to
Yeah,
someone who's on the
they
same item
catch up because
earlier.
they're capped. Yeah, that's
Right,
the
and so
beauty of a capped
I think
metascaler.
it feels like it would make sense if what Pygmalion is really lacking is some kind of catch up mechanic, especially because I figure like the part of the issue with Silk, right? And I like Silk for the record. When I played Pig, I thought Silk was a pretty fun item. Um, One of the issues to me is that it felt like something you committed to so early that it kind of just eats up a lot of your runs by being your entire identity, kind of the same way that you sometimes end up on single weapon Vanessa. So if you find a way to make it feasible to have meta-scaling items be something you can get into later instead of needing to commit to it basically day one, day two, I think that's really gonna open up build variety for characters like Pygmalion who actually rely on that mechanic.
Well, imagine if they had a card that was like a truffles for everything.
Yeah.
So it said like when you sell this item, your leftmost item gets plus damage, plus shield, one, plus poison, plus burn, equal to, with the appropriate scalings, whatever,
Yeah.
with the appropriate scaling adjustments. But basically, like, plus regen, plus heal, like, basically gave every single generic attribute converted from value into those attributes as like so you could rewards card this card up to 100 and then give 100 burn to your leftmost item on like day 8 or something.
There are
And
definitely interesting things you could theoretically do with metascaling,
right,
right?
and then maybe like the damage version of it is like it gives that same amount of scaling would be like 1,000. If it's 100 burn, then it
Yeah.
would be like 1,000 damage, right? Or it would be like 1,000 healing, or it'd be 1,000 shield.
Though I will say, I suspect based on the Dino Sawyer situation, where I know that Toby expressed that the principal issue of the Dino Sawyer was that fast items kind of shouldn't be allowed to get certain levels of damage consistently, and Pig does have Adaladdle.
Yeah, for
So
sure. I mean, look, maybe what I just said is completely broken. I'm just saying, like, but what about a balanced version of that? Like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
for sure. Like the concept
The
itself
devil's in
of
the details, right? Like, like, yeah, maybe that's
I
crazy
think
OP, but
the core of it, right, is that it would be interesting to have something that you can stack up early but commit to later in terms of what you
yeah,
actually want it to be.
and
Um,
just to more freely move around your like as pig, it often feels like you're working, you're always working on a project in your
right.
bag, you know what I mean? And it's like if you had a little bit more options to turn those projects into something that you can play on the board in a yeah, because like right now it's like the ways you have to do it are very specific, right? Like you need the enchant, usually it's just you need an enchant, right?
Yeah.
That's usually the way you convert your value stack into something useful. But having more and more reliable ways to do that, I think will make ultimately it'll be good for balance in the long term because it will make the make the like value stacking numbers more easier to balance because
Yeah.
it'll be more normal how you convert them. You'll be
Hmm.
converting them using a card instead of using an enchant. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that ultimately is going to be the long term way they're going to have to balance it because yeah.
Hmm. Fair enough. Whispers, did you have any other particular kind of points of note on the list?
Yeah, so one of them is about the extract event. I don't understand why it exists for pig. Like, since pig doesn't have poison items, I honestly don't want to see
Mm.
that event, right?
That
Because
that's I think that's just fair in general. Pig
Like
probably
the
doesn't
Yeah.
reason
do that.
is that we don't benefit from other, let's say, not very balanced skills, for example,
Mhm.
right? Like we have Toxic Flame. So because Toxic Flame exists and Pig is the only one that doesn't have access to it because it doesn't have poison items, I guess that's my reasoning at least.
Mhm.
I don't want to see this event either, right? Let's be consistent, okay? Like you give me extract event, but give me access to the skill. Maybe I find the poison item from the dig site or somewhere and I can do some combos with my matchbox, right?
Yeah, I think
So
it makes sense to have some characters be excluded from some events. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, I
It's
don't necessarily have a super. I mean, I look. It's for sure. It's a useless event for Pig. I think that that event honestly is useless for most characters most of the time. So I think that
that's
it's
true.
like in terms of it being an actual like balance issue. I don't know how much of like Pig's weakness you could attribute to having the
no, but I
Vile
mean it
event
takes the
exist.
spot of something better,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. Look, for sure, it would be better for Pig if Vile event didn't exist. Like that would be a win
I
rate buff. I just think it would
actually
be a really small one,
I think it
basically.
would be neat because I think that event, like any version of it, is relatively weak on most characters. At
Yeah, they're
least
bad.
enough so that I think you could maybe change that event to just being one event and having it be a choice of any of the four: damage, burn, poison, or heal. Because then at least you're almost always getting something that is
Yeah, or
relevant to your build.
Shield, right? Like
Or
I
shield,
mean, I
yes.
kind of
Any
think
any of the four, yeah.
they're kind of like they take up so much like space, quote unquote space in the event pool, and you
Yeah.
barely ever click on any of them, right? Like they're very weak. I agree that they could be combined into like maybe they could like do like pairs of two. So it would be like get a cinder, like your choice of a cinder or a vial,
I don't even
or
think
like
having
and
all
like your
five is like that crazy, and it would open up some cool like Monster Ranch esque possibilities. Where on the
That's true.
later
I would love
days,
more interesting free like so the
right?
rightmost
Yeah,
events
yeah.
most of them are quite boring, right? Like
Hmm.
they're like get regen, like the ones that are good are like snack time, but
Hmm.
it's not it's not good because it's like fun to click on. It's good
Yeah.
because HP is good. So like I would like to see. I mean, if any events in the game need like a spruce up, it's definitely like the cult, which we always mention,
Yeah.
and then the rightmost free events, because I do think they're
Hmm.
kind of like
And
meh.
it's always a fun thing, right? When you get to pick between like, do I want the thing that gives more gold, or do I want the thing that is kind of a little bit better for my board, or do I get lucky enough that it's both? And I
Yeah,
think
more
like,
often you're choosing between the center one. If
yeah.
the shop is bad, then you're often choosing between like a marginal free thing or like a different marginal free thing.
Mhm.
And so having those choices be a little bit more competitive, because right now it's like the center node is almost always what you click on if you don't click the
And I
shop, right?
think the ones that give free items, I don't mind at all in the same way, because the thing that makes them interesting is that most of the time that item, you're picking it because you need the gold, but there's an exciting possibility that you might get an item that actually does something or is an upgrade. So those are like, I find them fun enough to click, but the loot one specifically is just because there's five different and a lot of boards only ever care about like one at most. That
I
one
mean, just
would
compare
be,
them to Jungle
yeah.
Runes, right? Like Jungle
Hmm.
Runes gives you 3 loot items, like, and it's not even it gives you 3x, and it's like they're not even like a lower rarity necessarily, right? Like that's the other part of it too. It's like you click Cinder and it's day 5 and you get a bronze one. It's like they're not even like good in like relative to like the point in the game that you click them. So I think that they're just so I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
they're
so
not
that
they're
would be
not
a
the
fun
favorite.
change. That was a good one. Anything else on the list?
I was thinking making the gumball machine bronze and maybe making the gumballs cost 1 gold instead of 2. And the reasoning for me is that at least when I play pig, and let's say I get the option to buy a silver gumball machine very early, or I get a random item, I most of the time sell it because it really ruins your economy, right? Like early game, if you're not playing silk, you can't really spare 2 gold per hour to get a gumball. So maybe if it was cheaper and more accessible, you might want to hold on to it.
I also think the other kind of possibility then would be too that if you want it to be more of a luxury item that you're only really supposed to buy at later days, you could make it start at a higher rarity as well.
Yeah,
Because
that can be an
I
option.
do
Option as well.
agree. It does feel weird sometimes when there are lower rarity items that make you feel like you're never supposed to buy them early.
Yeah, like piñata or
Hmm.
How about optical augment?
yeah,
That's one that like is one of the
Yeah,
weirdest
yeah,
bronze
yeah,
items
yeah.
ever, right? Like, isn't that it's just so bad in the early game, it actually like hurts you, and it's such a weird item to have start at bronze. So yeah, there's definitely like I agree with you. There's something weird with Gumball Machine where the point in which you get it, or the point at which you're shown it, it's not very strong. Even if you're Silk, you can't always afford like I play a ton
yeah,
of Silk. Like you can't always afford to run it at silver, like in the like let's say you find it on day like 4 or something, you're probably better off not buying it in most situations. It
yeah. It
depends
also
on
costs
like
you a lot to buy it, and then you have to think
yeah, and
about
there's
the fact that
stash space like ideally like you want to have more like okay, Gumball Machine is very productive in terms of making you things, but it doesn't it costs you like a ton of money in a short period of time. And so you'd have to already be like very rich or like I would only buy it that early if I was like selling like a 60 value money tree to get it. Do you know what I
It
mean? Like I
almost
would have had to
feels a little bit like Loop used to be silver, right?
Is that true?
Originally.
That
The
would be
small
so
items have
broken.
+1 value.
Yeah, I know the car. I mean, loop
Yeah.
is what makes Gumball Machine good
And
later
so
in a lot
yeah,
of
that's what I mean.
situations.
It almost feels as if Gumball Machine is still balanced around Loop being something that like Pig almost always had, whereas now with pool dilution and it being gold, I feel like it's not that high percentage of the time that I'm sitting with a Loop when I'm playing Pygmalion.
Yeah, I mean, I would think I would be if they changed Gumball Machine to start at gold and to cost 1. I think that could be
Yeah.
a good way to do it, just to make it like better but less available. I'm fine with because I actually think it's like not that interesting. I actually think it's an annoying item more so
Yeah.
than it's
yeah,
annoying
but
in
I
the
think it's very
following.
good in silk, right? Because you get the
Yeah,
crits.
it's super good in Silk, but what I don't like about it is that very often I will have like this skill artillery spotter, and then I'll be wanting to play
Yeah, yeah.
like a knee brace or something on my board. So I'll end up having like an open slot on my board, but I need that slot to stay open, and then you can't do that while having Gumball Machine
We can
because it
get
will
to my
always
next
put the
idea.
yeah, it always put the gumball on your board, which will grief your artillery spotter. So I find it annoying for that reason. I wish it by default put the gumball in your stash when if you have room in your stash. But that's my gripe with Gumball Machine. I mean, which sounds small, but actually, this actually comes up very often when you're playing Sulk. But like this is
I
exact
always
scenario.
like when things end up on my board because I'm like, haha, I can sell it faster.
Well, it's like you don't have this problem with any other. So like, because like Piggles or whatever doesn't make the gumball till the end of the fight. or make the
Right,
piggle till
right.
the end of the fight, so it doesn't actually ruin your skill. It's just like
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Yeah.
But it's
That's
also
fair.
like a very big problem, not only for artillery spotter, but let's say you're facing a dually that you presume is playing Rex, right?
Oh,
yep.
yeah. And you've put
And
a specific number for the
yeah,
Rex.
like
Yeah.
you have 4 items because of that.
Mm.
Then you get a gumball, you have now 5 items, and they're gonna eat your silk, right?
This is
So
what we
that's
need. This is now my number one wish list item for Dually to grief all pig players. Is you need a rock thrower that puts a stone on your board only if you have an empty space.
I mean, it would be kind of cool if there was like a way where you could like lock the space, right? So that
Yeah.
like that would be a solution, I guess.
That's
Um,
actually that made me think. This is not related to anything in particular, but it'd be very interesting to see if we got like items, kind of like how 3D printer works or whatever, but that duplicate
Mhm.
onto empty spaces specifically. If we're ever gonna see something that incentivizes you to leave open spots on your board for something.
I mean, I think we probably will see that eventually. I would say hydraulic press in a way incentivizes you to leave space open in a sense.
Yeah.
They're
No, I get what
obviously
you
like
mean.
the five, not like every round, but like the five, like any of the 5 item maximum skills potentially
Hmm.
incentivize it already
Mm-hmm.
for the whatever. But yeah, I think it would be cool to have an item that's like if you have 2 or more empty board slots, this gains plus this much damage or whatever, or like its
Or
cooldown
like
is reduced by this percent if you have 2 empty board slots or 4 empty
we
board
might see
slots or
some summoning of stuff, I
that's what I
guess.
mean. Yeah, like if you had like a spawn keyword where it required you to have empty spaces for the thing to get summoned in or
okay.
spawn in or whatever, especially because then it'd be a very interesting dynamic of you're effectively playing down spaces until the cooldown of whatever does the summoning goes off, but then you'll be more powerful when it does. I think
I,
that
I
sounds really
I guess
cool.
the cool part about that is that it wouldn't necessarily have to summon the same item each time either. That it
Yeah,
could So it could be like I know Hearthstone had a lot of mechanics like that, where maybe
yeah.
people were not, maybe they weren't executed to people's
There's been a
quite
lot of like
happiness, but
there are ones that people liked and there are ones that people really didn't like. So I think
fair enough.
a lot of people, there was a rogue class that was usually called Thief Rogue, which was entirely balanced around Rogue's ability to generate cards that didn't start in your class. And a lot of the time they would generate them only from the opponent's class. And I think that's kind of the key. When you have items with variance but determined output ranges to the point where it's still not completely unpredictable, it can be fun variety. As long as, in the case of the Bazaar, since it's not like you're doing this over multiple turns, if you have like a summoning tome and it summons one of many familiars, then you would need the familiars to be relatively equivalently balanced, I think could be fun. Or if it's
Similar enough
like,
that you could plan a board reasonably around it.
right, whereas if it's like, I need this 1 in 5 to hit an imp, but if it's a chicken, I'm doomed. That's like less fun, right?
Yeah, that's hard. That's just like crits by another name, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, this is
Yeah.
very, very funny. For anyone, when you're listening to this, the season 4 preview dropped right now, 2 minutes ago.
All
As
right.
we're like 1 hour deep into the recording, so
That's perfect.
funny
This is,
timing.
to be honest, this has been like like this kind of thing happening has been one of the recurring themes of the podcast is that like we'll be talking about something and then in the middle of the recording like they'll
Yeah.
have made either
Okay. No,
released a
never
patch or
mind.
made an announcement or whatever.
This is even funnier. It premieres in 43 minutes, which will probably be around when we wrap up the
Yeah.
recording of the episode.
Okay, that is funny.
We
Okay, that's
have
perfect.
Mac with kind of like a parasol and sunglasses, sipping on what looks to be some kind of hourglass lemonade cocktail of sorts. I'm gonna put it. You can see it on
Oh
the
yeah, that's got to be a
screen here.
skin,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's
Look
just
at
got to
this
be a
Mac
skin.
skin, presumably.
Okay,
So
that's
we're
my
getting
new
a
Mac skin, by
Bazarian
the way.
summer. At least they timed it very well this time.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
That's
So
interesting with no idea
that
what
does
that
make me think
entails.
that makes me think properties is if it's like summer themed,
Oh, like a
then
beach
maybe like
house.
maybe like properties is the pig pack.
Oh,
And toys.
obviously, like Beach
That would make
Vanessa.
sense.
We have Beach Ball
That's
already. We
true
need
too.
more Beach Vanessa things. Okay, we did get
Okay,
something to talk about.
what is that's true. Do you have any ideas for what the Vanessa pack is going to be? Ammo?
Yeah,
Fully
so
loaded summer?
yeah, it's
Bust out the
very
guns?
interesting to try to think of where it feels like. Okay, so predictions. Summer. This is the message just posted by Evil Space Bunny. Summer's heating up in the bazaar. New hot metas and chill vibes in this season 4 preview. Maybe a bit of burn and freeze, potentially.
Yeah, maybe Vanessa
Um,
burn theme.
yeah, because that feels like I have noticed that maybe other people have experienced it differently, but for a while now, it's felt to me like Lighthouse as an archetype on Vanessa really like fell off. I haven't
Yeah,
been
it
seeing it
kind of
much, I haven't
happened
been
with
playing it
the
much.
cleanse change and then it never fully
I
recovered,
think it
right?
was even earlier almost. It was like around the first expansion for her. It just felt like the first expansion had like almost no slow lighthouse support. And then when the second expansion rolled around, shot glasses and the Sea Dog Saloon work so much better with the other stuff like the
With anglerfish and
anglerfish, for
yeah.
example, that it feels much harder to end up in lighthouse at this point. So that could be interesting if we get some more kind of lighthouse support. When I did my big Vanessa chart, I did notice too that there were like it's kind of a big gap nowadays in the burn portion of her kit. Like you have Zoarcid and you have the keg, but the only real reason why you ever focus on burn as a mechanic rather than incidentally deal burn damage is when you're trying to keg. So it's led to cards like Lighter or Pop Snapper, for example. They see a lot less play now, so room to flesh out the archetype, perhaps.
Alright. I'm probably still not gonna play Vanessa, but I am gonna buy the pig pack on day one, and
Yeah, you've been a bit of a
yeah.
pig enjoyer.
Well, okay. Here's my thinking is like I don't really. I have more of a hope that Pig will improve than that Mac will improve, given that Pig's getting new cards.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I just think it just like makes sense because I really like did not enjoy the state of Mac after on this patch. I really like I feel like I had all my fun with Femur like a month and a half ago
Yeah,
or whatever when Mac was still new and I didn't need like it really is like if you're not playing Femur, you're having a tough time in my opinion. So Yeah.
Makes sense. What about you, Whispers? When you hear that the new expansion is going to be summer themed in some way, do you have any hot prediction for a summer themed pig item?
Well, to be honest, probably something like sandcastle property. I don't know.
Yo, that's so good.
Okay, the sandcastle, when you kick it over, it puts the value onto the next item. It actually makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds really nice, right?
Come full circle. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
Sandcastle.
we designed the item from the start of the podcast to the end. Now we have the theme. We've got to get art. You want to start drawing a picture of
You know, I can
Whispers?
like visualize it in front of me because it needs to be a sandcastle, but it's like insanely extra. Even though it's made out of sand, it's like, the biggest
Yeah, and
castle
Pig's getting
ever
ready to
because it's
kick it
big.
over.
No, I was more thinking like it's a sandcastle so big that Pig is just like living in it. It's like a fort-sized
Oh, it's a
sandcastle.
true sandcastle. It's like a
Right, right.
life-size sandcastle.
And
Gotcha.
that's
All right,
like
that
the
would
the
be cool.
pun, right?
That would be actually really cool if they actually had that. But
That would be good. It is interesting. You never know with the devs. The fact that it says hot and chill vibes could mean freeze items, but it could also be a red herring. Um,
yeah, I feel like I feel like they're pretty creative. Like Pig already had like a freeze centric
yeah,
expansion. Maybe the freeze stuff is for Vanessa, to be honest.
but it
That
it does feel like both of them. Since Vanessa has like Yeti Crab and Pig has his whole freeze archetype, but I know that a lot of the people we've spoken to on the podcast on the topic of freeze pig have commented on the fact that it can be like tricky to get into. So it
yeah, it doesn't really
would,
have an early game. It doesn't have
right,
like a line that leads into it naturally. You
but
kind of
we
just have to
have
take a
stuff
leap.
like there's already an ice cream van. What do you eat on the beach? Ice cream.
That's
Ice
true.
cream pig.
We're hoping for big nerfs, or sorry, big buffs to ice cream truck. Yeah, big
Right.
nerfs to ice cream
No,
truck.
support for ice cream truck.
Yeah. All right,
Uh,
we're
Okay.
ready
Do you
for
have
that.
anything else on the list? This is fun.
Yeah, I had because we were talking about Gumball Machine, so
Mm-hmm.
this is like one of my favorite ideas. So it kind of involves all of these item generating items, right? So cash register,
Right,
vending
right.
machine, gumball machine. What I would like to see, for example, cash register, right? It generates 2 coins. But what I want is for the coins to stay in the cash register, right?
Right.
And at the start of the day, I open the cash register and get my coins, right?
Hmm.
And it kind of is like that in the real life. Like that's my reasoning. So it
So
should function the same way with the vending machine. So you get 3 things, but you need to open the vending machine, right? So the mechanic I'm hoping for is like at the start of the day, I make sure I have space, right, in my stash. I click on the cash register and get my coins,
Mm.
or the vending machine, or the gumball machine, right?
So that it's almost like a delayed effect where you get to activate it after you've
Yes.
made
Yeah.
like no more of
So
that
this
like
way,
accidental like oh shit all of my coin vanished
sucks.
into the
So this way
into
you
the
can
cell phone.
actually hold a cash register and the vending machine and the gumball machine in your stash if you really want
Right,
to.
right.
so you say you don't like silk, but you keep asking for silk buffs. Like,
Yeah, but it's not necessarily related to silk. It's just like
but
I
this,
feel
but if
like
they did that, this would be a huge buff to silk, right?
I mean,
Because
I
it would
think
be
to be
because it would let you
fair,
hold a full additional item generator in your stash. Well, like, because right now it's like those items are balanced against the space requirement that they create. So it's like cash register creates, it essentially takes up 4 spaces, and vending machine takes up 5, and money tree takes up 4. And like that's how much space you have to have per each one, including itself, for those items to like function at the start of the day. So I'm down for them to function differently, but if they were like at their current values right now and did what you said they would do, they would for sure be OP. That would be my take on it.
They can do an adjustment, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
many
that's what I'm
times,
saying. Like it may be better to have it work the way you're saying, but I'm saying they would need to do an adjustment for sure.
That
like
would be
especially
interesting.
vending machine, right? It's a 5 slot item. Like most of the times, you'd never have space for that because you're
Yeah, I mean,
getting like a
that's
pickles,
when
you're
you like
getting a coin.
yeah, that's when you like only play with silk, basically a vending machine, because it's so bad otherwise. Because
It's still
yeah,
good for the truffle, for example, if you want to add value to something, right? You're playing fitness. It's not bad.
yeah, I guess with fitness it's fine. I mean, I
Hmm.
prefer to have obviously pitchfork for fitness because it just gives you more of what you actually want.
Yeah, but I mean, if you only found the vending machine,
Yeah,
what
of
do you
course,
do?
of course. It's
Yeah.
not it's not like terrible. I don't know. It's one of the ones that I kind of think is on the weaker end. So maybe for vending machine it's like actually fine because it's like that one is already, I think, of those items, I think that's the like worst among them.
Then I think it's also like the idea of having meta activatable items has some interesting potential uses as well. Like imagine having item like that you're meant to play on the board that has some kind of charge that you can choose or not choose to activate before a fight, for example.
That would be interesting. Okay, like a switch you can turn on and off, like some kind of state of the item that
Or almost
determines its function.
like a ammo but on like a meta plane where like you activate it to be more powerful, but maybe it has a limited number of times that it can do that, or maybe you need to meet some kind of criteria to
So
recharge
kind of like
it.
the way the lick it items work, like ammo, but it never is.
Yeah, yeah.
But then
That's
maybe you could
something like that.
refresh the ammo in some kind of out of combat way. So like instead of with lick it where like the item just gets destroyed, imagine you could do something out of like whenever you visit a shop, this gains +1 permanent ammo, and then you like consume the ammo in combat.
So I think like more almost like so the interesting thing would be right if it's an item that you're meant to play on your board, which means that you may because like you could just make an item that gets destroyed when you use it, right? And you'd achieve something similar. That's like a one-time use item.
Mhm.
But it would be interesting to have an item where it's more like you get to have it be more powerful one time, but you're still meant to run kind of the weaker version a lot of the time before and after. That'd be kind of
Okay,
interesting.
interesting. That
Yeah.
that actually reminds me of there's a mechanic in the Pokemon card game called like the GX mechanic, and
Okay.
it's kind of similar to that. And then what it is it's an attack that you can only use once per game.
Ah, yeah.
So and it's like a super
Something like
attack.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's kind
that
of
that actually like
interesting.
there is definitely like precedence for that in card games. I do think it's an interesting idea. I think it can feel unfun to face a ghost who is using their GX attack or
Right.
whatever, just
That's
because
a
it feels
fair
like
point.
you
That
it's just
alone
because
is
it
probably worse than the amount of fun it would be to implement like lightly in that
because
sense.
how unlucky do you feel when you go against the you're like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
using my hyper beam like
Hyper beam keg Vanessa or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that you're fair point actually. I resigned my
Well,
concept.
again, it could just be like something that isn't reflected in the ghost, though.
Yeah,
Like I don't know, like
that's true, it's true.
they could fix that problem, but
Okay.
all right.
Do you have more stuff on the list? I'm still enjoying this.
Just a few things.
Yeah,
So
go
I
ahead.
would like to see VIP pass offered in economic seminar.
Oh, it's not.
Oh,
That's
okay,
weird.
agreed. That is
Yeah.
weird. Okay,
Because it's never there and
I
it's
wonder if
such a
that's a.
premium item that
Does it
I
it's
have
wonder if that's like
the
a
economic
bug.
item tag?
Yeah, well, you can definitely get it from
PNP.
Prospero.
Yeah, you get it from the economic vendor. So
Yeah, it's tagged economy reference, but what does economic seminar base it on then?
It's weird because you can. It's not because it's an expansion item because 100% you can get Ring King from Economic Seminar. So it's not because it's an expansion item because other
That has
expansion
to be
items
a
are in there.
bug,
Yeah,
right?
I think that one might be a legit bug. I
Yeah,
think
because
I agree with you on that one
though I was
100%. I
just
think it's like a
looking on
bug.
Bazaar DB to make sure, but the wording on Economic Seminar and Prospero are like it's the same wording. There shouldn't be a
Yeah.
difference, I don't think.
or at
Okay,
least I have
that's
never
fair.
seen it. If
No,
any other
I
guys,
also have never seen it, and I always click Economic Seminar. So
Yeah,
I'm
and
pretty sure
as
you
soon as
can't
you
get it.
mentioned it, I did also feel like I don't think I have seen it either. But it's such a thing that you wouldn't think about, so I wonder if it's just not been reported enough, if that is a bug.
it just feels like a
Yeah.
vital item, right? When you stack value, because there's no other way.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's super good.
Yeah, for sure,
If
for
you get
sure.
it after sudden death, for example, when you already got your enchant, is useless because you can't stack it because the monsters die too fast because you have already enchanted your property. So
Yeah.
you have to find it early, right? And this is one less spot where you can find it. So
Yeah. No, that
All right.
makes
I mean,
sense. Makes
that
sense.
one I got no notes on. That one 100%
Yep.
agree.
Yep. Checks out. What
I
else we
also
got?
would like to see maybe Jabalian dagger at bronze or silver because let's
Oh,
be
that could be
honest,
interesting.
it's just an economy item, right? Why wouldn't you want it earlier? At least you get something from it.
Especially if it was earlier, maybe it wouldn't just be an economy item. Like,
You might even play it on the board if you have
right?
nothing else, right? Like it's not a
I like this one
huge
too. I'm
Yeah.
damage buff,
also
but
+2 for me on this one. Yeah, like
Especially
I agree.
because
I
this
agree with you
this
on
is
this one.
like really it's not that important, but I've always thought thematically that Jabalian dagger feels like a very iconic Pygmalion item. Like we have the Jabalian recurve bow and the Jabalian drum, which are indeed very central pig items, especially the recurve bow has always been something you play a lot early, and it makes sense. It's the Jabalian bow for the Jabalian. But so it's always been weird. Now it's called Jabalian Dagger, but it used to be called Pig's Dagger. It was literally Pig's Dagger, and I think I've played it on board maybe once, and it was like really early on in a really niche scenario.
Yeah,
like you can only play it with Boar's Market, right? Like
I've
it's the
never I've never put that item on my board. I don't know. Like I literally never.
but
I don't even buy it most of the time. Like sometimes
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
card I
yeah.
buy like when I'm super rich and I'm like doing it as like an intermediate buy sell where like I buy it, keep it in my stash for just the shop, for just the length of like that shop or that
it's
shop and the
decent when
next
you
shop.
cycle weapons, right? When you
Yeah,
cycle
yeah.
And they
weapons,
they could do the same thing as like with what I proposed for Cove, where they could have the cell thing be 1122. They don't need to make it like 1234 because that obviously get a bit
Yeah.
yeah, the
I
thing
wonder
it
if
doesn't
even
even
starting it
matter.
at silver would be good enough. I wonder
Like the
if you
scaling
started
doesn't
it.
matter on it.
yeah.
You just would like to have access to it early
Yeah.
because as pig, like you
Yeah.
don't really have a.
Well, I mean the scaling of the value would matter too because it would mean that if you find it at like 2x at silver, it would be like having two pawn shops, right?
Yeah,
Well, I think
of
that would
course.
be like kind of. I think if it gave 2x, if it gave 2 value per cell at silver, I think that would kind of be OP.
That
Like
that's
I think that's
that's
a,
what I'm saying. Yeah, like they
yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
do that, but
Skip it
the
one value.
item itself on silver and have it be 112, or bronze and have it maybe even still be 1112, and just have the damage
Yeah.
go up, because it is interesting, right? If you have it really early on, I could see a world, right, where if you happen to have a pretty stacked one at when you hit your 7 and you just don't really have an amazing upgrade target, you can give it 50% more damage. Maybe it's hitting people for like 300 on like decently early day,
Yeah,
like
that's maybe they just like instead of making the value scaling changing, they could just make the damage based on the value scaling. So like you could have it be like
that's what
at
it is
diamond.
currently.
Yeah, but like it's not it's just 2x, right? Like it's
No, it's
like it's
1x at gold, 2x at diamond.
yeah, that's what I mean. It's just
Yeah.
2x at so it's like insanely weak now.
Yeah.
Like like even if you could start it at bronze now, like 2x in the late game is not going to be a good number. Like 2x, like even
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
could get like 500 value on it, if it's day 10, 1,000 damage is not even like good.
You're
Do you
right.
know like it's
That's why I mean.
okay?
That's why I think it would
Yeah.
make sense if like the scaling still goes 1, 2, 3, 4 if it starts at
Oh, okay. I
bronze,
understand.
but
I
the
understand.
value stacking might be 1, 1, 1, 2 or something.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That's a good one. Okay. You got any more?
Yeah, I was thinking more recently about sauna, for example.
Right.
I think it would have been nice if it actually burned as well when you burn, because like it makes no sense.
Oh.
Sauna, like it has a burn tag on it, right? It has, I don't know, 4 burn default, but it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like if it had it or not, it's a 7-second item that burns for 4, right? So
Honestly, it's like it's also one of those where I think it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. For I like the fact that they've moved away from passive items and we have a lot more active items. But I think there are some scenarios where it can still be pretty cool to have at least a few passive items. And sauna potentially being a passive item that then works as both the thing that gives you heal and regen, but also being effectively a buff to the burn value of your items. Could be cool.
yeah, like that, right? So it
Mhm.
has 4 burn, but then your burn items gain 4 burn for the fight. They
Mhm.
have plus 4
So it
burn.
would be like, when you burn 4, and like not it doesn't count itself for the going off. I
Yeah,
think that
something
that
like
would be
that.
cool.
Because it's
So like yeah,
just,
when you burn with another item, burn 4, heal 15, gain 2 regen.
it's
I
not
think
like Pig has a lot of burn items, right?
yeah.
The pool is so small that
It'd be
Yeah,
a
you
I like it
get
as
cool
I
very
like it as a
yeah.
scale. I like the idea of having it be
Hmm.
a way to scale burn. Because
It
I
sounds
actually
like
think that
a
if you have
cool
it
way to
like
like kind of get Matchbox back, right?
yeah, because right now, I mean, I
I
think one
would
of the
like
big
to see
problems.
more burn items, to be honest.
Mm.
Not
Well,
to the
that
power
might
of
be happening.
matching.
It's the
That's
summer
true. Summer
expansion,
expansion.
hot summer.
And I do
It's
remember
a
I've
scorcher.
spoken to Goosefather, and he did say that he's been having some success playing Sauna Rice Baller occasionally. So we did get burn. Pig has gotten burn items in every expansion so far. Interesting
Yeah,
fact.
that's
Now,
true.
now that I think about it.
Yeah, it just the rice baller
Yeah.
can be very good, but
Hmm.
like Pig has this big problem with the scaling burn, right?
Right.
There's only a limited amount of skills, basically just left, right, burn,
Hmm.
and events. That's it, and
And
courier.
especially because Pig feels fairly decentivized to pick skills. You
Yeah,
have less
there are a lot of
opportunities, right?
not that good
Yeah.
skills, right? Like all items plus heal, all items plus shield.
Hmm.
They're okay, but many times you see them at diamond, right?
Yeah.
They feel so bad. Like it's
I think
just
I like the idea of sauna being the burn scaler
Hmm.
because I think it speaks to yeah the issue with like a matchbox board right now on Pig is that you just don't like your ability to stack burn compared to like ignition core or like a dedicated even like
Hmm.
a dedicated Vanessa
or
like
toxic flame
angler
build,
fish
right?
yeah or I mean
Yeah.
here's honestly I think toxic flame is going to get nerfed so I wouldn't be like Yeah, Toxic Flame is for sure OP. Like I don't disagree with you on that. I think it's the thing that I'm most confident will get nerfed
I
in
think it'll
the
probably
next
move
season.
to Gold
Like two,
Star.
three, four, or something, or whatever.
I would expect
Or
Gold
Gold
Star.
Star, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. Like they can do it, they can nerf it a number of ways, but I think it's likely to get nerfed.
Yeah.
So like I don't know if the issue if the thing is to give Pig Toxic Flame. I would think it would be good to give Pig an item that is kind of like the Pig version of the card fungal spores that like scales
Yeah.
the poison on your poison
Yeah,
items.
that's a pretty cool item, right?
And that could
So
be like, okay,
like
so
it could be sauna, right? It could be like
no,
when you
so
burn.
summer pig. Okay, we get in the mindset. Summer pig. What item? I know, like some kind of tanning bed, but maybe he has
Oh,
like a
like the
super.
reflector you hold up to your face? Like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
you
but
know,
he has
the
like a
mirror.
super powered like tech version of that because he's so thick skinned that he needs like the
True,
whole
it's hard to
Fury. He
get.
needs like a portable sun to actually tan, right?
A magnifier
So
glass.
yeah, so he has some kind of super like whatever you call those screens, or like a portable like like those light lamps that they use for like photo shoots or stuff. It's
Like
like
a
I
ring
imagine
lamp?
yeah, I imagine like one of those, but like it's just like a sun, you know?
Yeah, or like a tanning bed. That's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
pig-like to have
Yeah.
like a tanning bed.
hmm That makes sense. That could be the Pygmalion burn scaler. Yes, some like a tanning screen. Tanning screen makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What else we got?
I would also like, since the recent weeks, it feels like getting permaslowed, for example, feels really bad. Like
Yeah.
the experience, especially as pig, since you have like really no realistic protection unless you like stack
Mm-hmm.
health and hope you can play your items by the time you die. Right? I was thinking like some sort of diminishing returns, like not
Or
in the sense
even like for pig just to have an like dually scarf, but some type of like themed after pig that cares about slows. I think that would be very reasonable.
Like an anti-slow item.
it's
Yeah.
difficult to implement, right? Because like you're playing, let's say you're playing a double whammy and you're playing the equivalent of the scarf and you're not getting slowed and you will hit in 12 seconds. Eh, I don't
Right.
think
I
that's
think,
really.
but I don't hate that, right? Because it's like otherwise you imagine so the whammy board, right? Like a lot of time, whammy and pawn shopping you can fit two mediums, and a lot of the time those two mediums will ideally be like phonograph or and belt.
Belts. Yeah.
So it's kind of like not getting slowed is like phonograph but worse. So letting
Or if your
some
number
pig,
is high enough, you could play it instead of the belt if that's like
yeah,
so you
that
could
too, right?
yeah.
But especially like I think it's a cool idea because I feel this a lot on Pygmalion is that sometimes you're stuck with builds that really want phonograph, but you don't have a phonograph. But they
Yeah, it's
can't
such a
like
premium item.
right, they can't make that silver because it's one of the best items in the game and it kind of quote unquote breaks Pygmalion. So it would make sense if we had an anti-slow item that then in practice is almost like this is the worst version of phonograph, but that's available at a lower rarity.
Yeah, but would it actually work like seal scarf? So when adjacent
Yeah,
items get slowed, they move
I don't
slow?
quite know. That'd be like the interesting
Because
question, right?
like slow is way more spammy than freeze, right? Because
Yeah,
you have
like
like
it would have to be it would have to be implemented in some different way. Oh, you know what they could do? It'd be really funny. Like
I know what they could do. Whenever
it
the item adjacent to this is slowed, haste it for
that's
10 seconds.
exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. Because pig doesn't have haste normally, and this also means that
more slow.
if you have out of class haste, then that gets neutralized by it as well. So you can't do both. But that would be hilarious to just have an item that's like when your items get slowed, haste them. That's very fun. I like that.
Yeah, I think that would actually be a very elegant way to handle it
I could
because I
call it
think
like,
that
I don't know, like a slip cream or something.
the slip
Yeah,
cream.
I would also like to see, for example, let's say the opponent has an item that says slows for 3 seconds, for
Right.
example, right? So the first cast will slow for 3, second for 2, third for 1 second, and that's it. Like,
So I think I don't love that, mainly for the reason that I think for every character that isn't Pygmalion, I actually think slow is a very balanced and healthy mechanic. Because other characters have access to haste and they have access to charge and stuff like that. But it always feels a little bit like, since Pygmalion doesn't and tends to have long base cooldowns to begin with, it's like he gets very disproportionately punished by permaslow.
yeah, that's kind of my reasoning, right? So
Mhm.
I'm just trying
Yeah,
to find the middle
but
ground
that would
to.
be like yeah, but the point is that like it would make slow horrible for like right now slow is kind of I when you're playing characters that are not pig, it doesn't feel nearly as oppressive.
So that's why it would
So
make sense, right, for Pig to be
yeah.
the only character with an anti-slow tech card.
Yeah, and I actually really like that idea of like a dually scarf equivalent because it makes
Yeah.
sense also for like what Pig wants to do thematically of like hit with a big item, whether that's whether it's fucking Crusher Claw or Double Whammy
Yeah.
or Soul of the District, whatever.
And
Like,
actually, it is pretty cool that it makes it so that it's more easy to make sure that your Silk and like Shield don't get desynced either.
yeah, it's anti desync, which is also really nice. And then it's
But
like,
the thing that I still like is that you're just as vulnerable as ever to freeze as a mechanic, which feels like that's something that Pig should be vulnerable to. So it makes
yeah,
sense.
agreed. And it's
Yeah.
also like as Pig, you could potentially get like what's cool is that like I know that like they said they don't like too much sideboarding or whatever, but I actually kind of love the idea of carrying around a dually scarf and a Pig's anti-slow item and then
And
deciding which
I
one I
think
want to
like
play based on the
the
opponent. But
key to it for me, right, and why Dually Scarf is also a pretty cool item that I don't dislike, is that more often than not, right, it doesn't super disproportionately punish people. It's not like this implementation makes it so you can't proc your femur, and it's not like the
true.
old Ice Club where it sometimes means that if you try to do disruption, you just die. It just means that the slow isn't gonna slow the pig down, but it's not gonna make the pig faster either. It just
Yeah,
cancels out.
it's more like anti-disruption and less like I am anti your build. It's more like I'm anti the
Yeah.
disruption that's coming out of your
And
build,
it's
which does
like,
feel
it's not
like
like it
different
would be
somehow.
super broken on other characters, but it would be very funny with stuff like shot glasses, where due to the way cumulative haste works, it would be kind of like having
Yeah, it could
rocket
be like
wheels
a
on your shot
combo. That
glasses.
would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah, but think
Or,
about
yeah.
it. So, like, if the meta is slow based on a lot of the other characters and we have such an item, what is your incentive to play slow builds, right? If you're gonna
The
face
fact
pigs,
that slow oftentimes is used these days, so when people play slow now, they're almost always getting something else out of it as well.
yeah, they are
Duly,
scaling, but
yeah,
one
right?
of the massive advantages in late game where you face quite a lot of pigs, right,
Mhm.
is the fact that you perma-slow them. So on top of everything, you are scaling and perma-slowing. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
But
what I
like
mean, right? Is I don't think it's that bad for the slow players if sometimes you only get the scaling or the procs and not the perma slow. For Pygmalion specifically, that feels like, because it's one of those things, right, where like it's very possible for like Shot Glasses Vanessa to kill a Pygmalion through pawn shop before double whammy activates, even when it isn't slowed. And so the fact that perma slow just means that it's never even gonna be a fight. I think it's I don't think it would be too overpowered to have counterplay to that. Is my suspicion.
I know I'm not defending the other characters. I'm just putting myself in their
Yeah.
skin, right? Like if I'm a Vanessa player and I'm playing the saloon, right? I have a saloon build and it's diamond. I'm pretty sure most of my logic behind, like after the scaling, is also to perma slow the opponent.
Oh yeah, for
A really
sure.
valid.
Yeah, but like Dually Scarf, it could only be like adjacent, right? It wouldn't have to be every
Yeah.
single one of your
And the
cards. It
main
would just
thing,
be
right,
like
is
two
that
of them.
like yes, the Vanessa player, because I am the Vanessa player, right? Like I've played a bunch of Saloon. Your intention is to perma slow, but I don't think that means that, because there is counterplay, right? The counterplay for other characters is that permaslow already doesn't matter if the other character is playing a charge build. But I don't think Pig should be given the ability to freely play charge builds because he's supposed to have some weaknesses. But because he can't charge and he can't quick start, like he doesn't have holsters, he doesn't have clamra, that's my main reason for why I think Pig specifically might be allowed to have counterplay to permaslow, because he's the only character that doesn't right now. Every other character already has something that's good into permaslow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
also
even Mac
because
has
it doesn't have
charge
like
too. Yeah.
slow or haste, right? It's
Yeah.
just the marbles, so
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
you
I
don't
will
really.
say Marbles is a good card. It's just, but it's like it's hard to do anything interesting with it because you have no synergies.
And
You have no slow
the
synergies.
reason
So
they've nerfed that card so much was because when Pig did have permaslow, it was so broken.
yeah, I mean, it's still like Marbles is still a card that like is very like in my just like as a in terms of card strength alone, I still rate it very high. It's
Yeah.
just that what theoretical board are you playing it on as
I just
Pig other
remember
than as a way
like
to make your matchbox go faster, right? Like that's the
Alal
only thing.
Yo-Yo Marbles when Marbles was on use with like heavy Alal. It's just permaslow. It was so awful.
Yeah, but I mean that's all of that has been nerfed, right?
Yeah,
Like both the
which again I
Atlatl
think makes
enchants
sense,
and
right?
the yeah.
Yeah, it was all related to bonking the matchbox, preventing the duping, like
Yeah.
removing the
Mhm.
hammer. So that kind of destroyed the marbles.
I think they've done good work on solidifying Pygmalion's class identity as being a character that lacks both speed control and acceleration. I think that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, your compensation is supposed to just have a big enough HP bar that you just
Yeah.
items will eventually get to go, but in practice that's not that's such a like it does happen. It is like a real thing, right? It's not like that you never beat a slow as Pig. It's
Mhm.
more it's just like it feels very it doesn't feel fun to lose a fight where you waited where you waited like 20 seconds for your item to go and then you just die with it at like 99% of
Yeah.
its cooldown.
Yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell the
That that
experience.
experience is unfun and it's also and like what's nice about a card like Dually Scarf is that like the existence of the card itself makes it, at least to me, makes it feel less bad to lose to freeze. It's like, well, I could have
Yeah.
gotten a dualies scarf, and at least I had the option to.
But I
at some
think
point.
it's very cool too, especially right, like having some avenues of counterplay makes it feel like, so otherwise I feel like we might end up in a scenario where over time Pig kind of gets power crept again to the only viable builds being things that are already fast enough to not be that like auto losing to permaslow. Whereas I like the idea of giving more support to the slower things because they are the ones that you just won't play otherwise. Like bringing up the bottom end rather than
Yeah, I mean, I
lowering
do
the
think
top end.
that like true like fat pig, like double whammy fat pig, is at one of the worst states it's ever been. That
Yeah.
basically it's just kind of like a bad version of Silk. Like as Silk, you can get almost as much HP, except that your item is like by default like 3 seconds faster.
That's 5 seconds
So
faster, I think, right?
It's even funny that you can actually
4.
play lemonade
well, yeah,
stand in
claws is 3 seconds or no, it's 4 seconds faster. Oh,
Yeah.
you're right. But like, yeah, whatever. The point is that it's way faster. So why go double whammy?
No, I agree.
Yeah, you can actually play lemonade stand because of the only buff we received, right, to the keychain. So it's even better to play lemonade with pawn shop, like high stacking stuff.
Oh wow,
Okay.
keychain at diamond is 6
Yeah,
seconds.
yeah, it's really good. Like,
That is
So
fast.
so it's just enchanted lemonade instead of double whammy, and
yeah, and like it's exactly
you
like
can
the hydraulic press, right?
yeah.
Because
I mean
Yeah.
that makes sense, but that's what I'm saying. Double whammy is bad, right? Like that's
yeah,
And
that's
that's
kind
kind
of
of my
what
point
we're
too,
yeah.
right? Is that so if keychain goes at 6 seconds, it means that theoretically if you just have either you play it with Diamond Fort, I assume, makes it double cast at 8, and opponent has +2
Yeah,
to
but then it
everything
can
as
hit the
well.
fort.
you can play it with tents. So you can
Oh, you can
play
hit with the
shop
4, yeah, right.
tents,
Yeah, you have to play with
lemonade.
passive
Right,
properties
that
so
makes sense.
that you
But
can't
in any
steal
case,
the
you can definitely also phonograph it and get it down to 3 seconds. It's just one of
It's
those
no longer
things where like,
50%. Phonograph was
oh,
nerfed.
it's 40 now, right? Yeah, I
Yeah,
forgot about that.
yeah,
I mean,
there
that's
was.
still fast enough. That's still
Yeah.
fast enough that if you're doing that, that's like if you are making your enchanted lemonade stand go off at whatever 3.4
You can also do
seconds or whatever
something
it is.
like get a healing enchant on the lemonade, on the keychain, or
To have it double
poison.
cast. Yeah.
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 Very clever.
And it will use a property and the poison item, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it will double cast. Yeah, I played a lot of lemonade, especially toxic. Toxic lemonade. Unfortunately, obsidian is not good. So obsidian doesn't really work for lemonade. The scaling is not good enough
Right.
because you want something to stick to the target like burn or poison.
I'll move us over to state of the meta because it's a good time for it anyways. But you can keep talking about like it's interesting to hear what you've been having success with versus not.
Yeah, like most recently, unfortunately, if you want to be consistent, there are pretty much just a handful of builds, right? Like drum is very good. Of course, you find the drum, you find the proper weapons, and in the right moment of the game, right? Lost early too much, and you're forced to go with drum post day 12, 13. It's pretty difficult to get a 10 win.
Right.
Because like it's really weird. You will lose to Silk, right? Because you can't slow him down unless you have like a heavy drum. So they will cast. If they have enough health, they will cast and you will get one shot. So yeah. So it's basically silk, drum. I do enjoy a lot of 28-hour fitness. I know the Goose Father doesn't.
Well,
It's a
I'm
bit
actually more
annoying.
on your side. I'm more on your side with 20. I think 28 hours is good. It's just labor intensive, right? It's just a lot of
It can be
work.
like hard to get into easily as well, I've found.
It's not
Yeah.
that difficult. Like you
Okay.
have you have a couple of because the main problem is shield items, right? That's the
Yeah.
problem. You will find a lot of weapons along the way,
Mhm.
but it's just the shield item. So I guess the best ones are robe, right? Because you can charge it and it's decently fast. Starting at silver, it's pretty good. And even jewelry, so heirlooms, how they renamed it. Like I have had many games where I didn't have any infinite loop, I didn't have even bad, and I still won and got 10 wins. But the problem is that, yeah, the mini game is a bit, and it's a little frustrating if you don't have a rewards card, right? And yeah, if you're going very late, you still need like all the pieces, right? Even if you don't plan to do the infinite loop. So you have the mandatory pieces, which are bad block, yo-yo, and penalty. Like if you don't have these, it's almost impossible to go really late fitness. You can win earlier, like you got some decent setup, some decent scaling. You got maybe a gym, a lemonade stand, you're stacking health, so you have time to scale, and you can win early. But otherwise, it's really difficult late game. And coming back to Pendulum, I think I have over 100 screenshots or videos of games that were enabled by Pendulum. That's why I was comparing it to Windmill, uh, because it's
I mean,
way easier.
I think literally it's easier to get Pendulum on Pig than it is to get Windmill. Just Pendulum
Sometimes,
is
yes.
Yeah.
well, like I probably get Pendulum more often than I get Windmill. Like it is extremely like part of the issue with Windmill is like maybe I just had it in games where it worked out because my sample size is not that big. How could it be? It's a diamond starting large. You just don't play it all that often. So it's like I'm thinking about like 4, maybe 5 games where I played Windmill successfully, which is like out of what 7 games or something where I bought it total or something. Like we're talking about not super high numbers, but Pendulum, I feel like I get it like all the time. But
Yeah,
part of it is
it's
just like,
especially because of the change, right? Because the monster is now in the middle, right?
yeah, he's just so common. He's
Yeah.
just half of your day 10s, and his loot table is not that big. And yeah, you just get it all the time. Plus, it's one of those cards that's always at pearls too. I feel like that for some reason.
But these are mostly my go-to builds. I also try to play money tree a lot, but we go back to the problem, right? When you cannot convert the value of an item to damage, you're
Yeah.
just you're just waiting for the enchant. You know you will die, you will get to sudden death, right? And you are
Yeah.
probably close to level 10. You will get the sudden death enchant, you have slow and deadly. Then you hit level 10, maybe you hit level 10 the same day, and you get restorative and radiant, and that's it. So it's game over. That feels really bad, right? And you didn't find anything to pair the money tree. And the only thing you can do is pair it with the skyscraper, because all the other properties don't do damage. Like I would like to see, let's say, I don't know, like Space Scraper to have shield and poison, right? By default, like we have a Trollosaur that has
Yeah.
damage and burn, right? And then you would be like, okay, I'm going to play the Space Scraper because I have this money tree, and it will do some burn or poison. But we don't have that, so you're just the slave of the enchant. The enchant is bad,
Yeah,
it's game over.
I think that was when I tried playing those strategies, and any other strategy where that is very much the case, like Railgun for a lot of the game has been very similar, where the viability of the comp rests very heavily on getting the not just the damage enchant. A lot of the time, you have to get one of the two good ones too. Like poison might not even cut it. Um, it can be very frustrating when you then miss it. So I do like the idea of, in the case of Railgun, obviously it's fine because it just means you pivot to another build that doesn't have the same issue. But with properties, since there's something you have to commit to, it's so hard to then like pivot if you don't get the damage enchant. So it would be
Yeah,
nice to not
you're
have
kind
that
of stuck.
problem. Yeah.
I also think the like there's a really, I don't know, this event that they introduced this season, but it feels just way too inconsistent. Like getting the ticket or not getting the ticket.
Mm.
It just it doesn't really feel fair. It's not
I
only
think
about
it will be a lot more fun when, as they've kind of described, the intention is to have like multiple events, and then you'll be like most runs, you won't get the same event, but you'll get an event, and it should be
yeah,
somewhat
that would be
equivalent.
cool.
Yeah.
But at least now the current implementation feels really bad when you get it
I can
because you're
imagine,
missing on your chance.
especially for Pig, right? Because you need the damage enchant so bad.
Yeah, you have a very high chance, right, to get burn or obsidian
Yeah,
premium enchants.
that makes
So yeah,
sense. Especially because I've noticed on Dually, obviously it's stronger to hit it, but it doesn't feel that like it's not as if I'm being very pessimistic about my run just because I didn't have the expedition ticket. Because it's like it's a premium thing, it's good, but you don't need it.
yeah, it feels the same for pig. Like if
Okay.
you're playing drum or
Yeah,
silk,
yeah,
is not that impactful, right? But
that
if you're
makes
playing
sense.
like some property value stacking, it feels a bit bad because you're missing on an option
Mm.
enchant. So
I've also been curious, and this is kind of on the State of the Meta topic. Walter, I know you've been mentioning a fair bit that you think Mac is very kind of shoehorned into Filmer currently. Could you elaborate a bit more about what's been making you feel that
Um, okay, so a couple of things happen. One is that the Mac Mac's early game is really hurt by having the additional board slots. So like regen and poison are way better when there's like a smaller board,
way? Right.
right? Because you die to weapons faster compared to the HP bar, basically. So there's that part of it. So his early game is just like a lot worse generally, and specifically like carpet is much harder to find once you have the expansion pack because they're all like bronze mediums. So all of the quest items are like frost totem, the whatever, all four of them, they're all bronze mediums. So your ability to find carpet is way down, and so like your consistency in the early game generally is just way down. So the result of that is that like you need stuff that goes late, but you're kind of like what goes late other than femur. There's like regen totem with like enchant and like library, like maybe, but now you have to find nerfed library and you maybe still don't even win. So it just feels like it's hard to have an early game that is like it's harder to tempo than it was before, right?
Right.
Because of the XP changes. And then because of that, you have to find a build that's like good on 13 days 13 14, and really like femur and not much else is my evaluation of what's good super late. Because I don't think Poppy Field is good super late anymore. I think if you like start out winning and find Poppy, then you can like 10-1, maybe go to day 12 10-2 with Poppy, and I still think that's fine. I think
Right.
that's just hard to do. Like that, or like it's not hard to do in terms of like it's not a hard game plan to execute, but it just your likelihood of that actually happening is not that high anymore. Especially again, like you're like diluted a lot from the new cards.
Right.
So
Right.
so that's kind of like that's why it's tough. It's like I think it Poppy is like similar. I mean, it's a very similar card to Drum, and they occupy kind of the same spot in each of in each Pig and Max kit, respectively. And they both have the same problem where like, yeah, they're good if you find them on curve,
Yeah.
and but like they're definitely not like just like Drum. If you're on day 13 with Drum, you're not happy, and if you're on day 13 with Poppy Field, you're not happy. Not that you never win, but you're not
Well, at
happy,
least
right?
Poppyfield beats Drum, so
Well, that's true. I mean, yeah, yes, Poppy Field has the advantage of like one of the nice things about Mac is that you're specifically good against Pig. You have a good matchup for sure, and like that does play into it, and it does probably make from the perspective of Pig, it makes Mac feel stronger than he actually is, in my opinion at least. Like the thing to understand about Mac is that he has all the starting slow weaknesses of Pig, except that he just doesn't have the HP bar, right? So
Mhm.
so when he gets second one, all of his items are slowed by Vanessa. He just dies a lot of the time and never gets to cast the item. Whereas Pig is more likely to at least have a million HP to get to use his stuff once. So I think that um yeah, Mac is in kind of a similar boat to Pig, except almost like it's more restrictive. Maybe the good part about Femur is that it's just like so good that you can say that maybe like Femur by itself is like stronger than any given Pig build, if that makes sense. But I think Pig has more total good options. Um,
like when I'm facing Femur, I know I'm gonna. It's
yeah, that's
just
what I'm saying. No, Femur is super good. Like, but it's like his only thing that's super good. Like the next best thing is a lot worse. Whereas I think like Pig is like Silk and Drum are like number one and number two, but they're extremely close in power. They're both really strong. Whereas I think that like Mac, it's like Femur number one by a huge margin, and then I guess Poppy Field / self poison stuff, but it's just very underwhelming in the late game. You have a lot of bad matchups. You have just a lot of like you just get one shot, you get Tortuga, you get crude tool like oh man. Like
yeah, that build is
you don't
insane to be
you don't
honest.
match up well. Like Mac doesn't match up well late game into the dualies. And that's kind of his problem. Whereas I think Pig actually matches up better into the dualies late game, especially the dinosaurs.
I
So
just lost today. Like I had a silk, a 10k silk with an obsidian claw, and I had 20k health. So I lost to crude tools, printer,
yeah.
core.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
never got
that's
to
the
cast.
build.
So
That's the build. That one's really brutal. I mean, I think at least sometimes you can beat that as like Silk, right? Like I think sometimes you race that board as Silk, like not always, but as Mac, I think you like always lose to that. So I don't know. I think both characters are definitely look. They're definitely the bottom two. How far off they are is subject to debate, I guess.
Okay. With all that said, I'm gonna move us along to the board of the week, but we're not gonna show a board. Instead, I've been secretly in the background scoring through the season 4 Bazaarian Summer trailer because it's actually live now, and I figured it'd be a lot more fun for people to actually get to hear our reactions to it and all that. But I'm gonna give you one more chance to guess now that I know the correct answer. What is the theme of the Pygmalion expansion?
Wait, who's guessing? Am I guessing?
Both. You both get one guess, and then I'm gonna tell you, and you're going to have reactions.
Okay. Well, we guessed property, right? Like what
So it
else
is
did we
not
guess? What
property.
else did I say? Okay, then I said toy maxing. Is it toy maxing?
And it is not toy maxing, so you'll have to make a new guess where it's neither properties nor toy maxing. It is focused on a very specific aspect of Pygmalion's current kit. It's something that exists but has not been fleshed out, and it's something that the trailer puts great emphasis on being a very serious matter.
I have no idea.
Well, that's a very specific description.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to just tell us now. Like we obviously haven't seen.
If you look
Yeah, I have
in
no idea.
the VC text chat, Pygmalion's
Oh my God.
expansion is Piggles themed.
That is toy maxing. I was.
It's
What do you mean?
not
How is that
toy
not toy
maxing,
maxing?
because it's
How is
not
that-
focused on it being toys. It's actually just expanding on. There are even like new Piggles. It's Piggles maxing. You were so close.
Oh,
All right,
okay.
I'm counting it.
I know. I just wanted to build the drama. You know,
Okay,
thicken the
that's
plot.
fine. That's fine.
One of them even does say when you use a toy, so you were pretty close. Which was funny.
That's not bad.
So, we know now that Pygmalion's expansion is Piggle themed, and Vanessa's expansion is themed around her having plundered Dooley's workshop and acquiring a bunch of techno weapons. So Vanessa's expansion is actually tech themed.
What?
Oh,
All right.
Yeah.
interesting.
Okay, that's super weird. All right. Here's the thing. I want to go watch the trailer. Let's.
Well, so
it's not fair. It's not fair that you get to see it. Okay.
I've put all the actual. So what I've put in the chat here that we can talk about before we wrap up the episode and everyone can probably
okay.
watch the trailer and everything. These were all of the items where the text was shown in the trailer.
Gotcha.
Starting with the Oni mask. Because Vanessa's expansion also seems to be crit themed, which was kind of hinted at with them teasing this like sniper bot thing. Which now it makes a lot of sense, right? It looked like a Vanessa item, but it was a robot. And
Okay, I kind of called one. Okay, can I say that I predicted one of these mechanics earlier in this podcast? The money furnace, at the start of each fight, spend 5 gold to increase this item's value by 3.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what we said about like a way to turn temporary value into like the sponsored apparel is kind of like the same, right?
Gaining permanent value, to be fair.
Well, the sponsored apparel is kind of the same, right? Like it scales your items value out like in a
right, but it's not
permanently, but in combat.
It's
like
yeah, but we already have permanent in combat scaling. That's VIP pass, right?
Well, that's the VIP pass, I guess, but
so it is like in a way it is similar to what we were saying. This makes sense.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched the trailer yet, you can watch it first if you want to, but I will be reading off the items, starting with Vanessa's Oni mask, which is an 8-second medium apparel tech item that burns for 6. And when you crit, your burn items gain burn for the fight, and when you slow, it charges. So we already have some this does different things when you crit text on there. And it's kind of paired with this Cyber Sai, which is a medium tech weapon deals damage, has base crit, and the first 3 times you crit with it in a fight, it prevents all damage you take for the next second.
Yeah, that sounds a little too strong, right?
It's very interesting. It's almost as if they are trying to give like alternate ways of having like temporary defense instead of just having like permanent survivability for maybe more offensive builds to be like not entirely glass cannon.
So this looks like a Memento Mori 3-time activation, right?
Yeah. We also have the sponsored apparel, so now we're on to the pig items, which says at the start of each fight, if this is in play, spend 8 gold to increase the value of all of your items by 1. And when you use a toy, you shield equal to 1 times that toy's value. So that's
You
very
have to.
interesting. I presume that I wonder where the shield proc will originate from for the purposes of Wrist Warrior. So will be an interesting one to figure out. If you can put Wrist Warrior next to the apparel, or if you can put it next to the
You
toy,
probably
or if
can
it's just
because it
not
behaves
gonna.
like fitness and drum, right? When you have shielded fitness or shielded drum.
Right. So
Yeah,
how does that work?
it would work. Yeah, it would work if Wrist Warrior is next to it, based on this wording.
Okay, yeah. So that's pretty interesting. It's interesting too to have like ways to increase the value on items you're actually playing on the board. Um,
Yeah, but
by
it
playing
says
them on the
all your
board.
items, so that means the stash as well,
I
right?
don't know for sure because sometimes the things that do it at the start of combat feel like they interact weirdly. I don't actually
Right
know
now,
if it.
Dragon's Tooth works on your weapons in the stash.
Okay, yeah, then it probably works like that. So
Yeah,
it's the if you
assuming they're
hold.
being consistent, it should
Yeah.
work. I think, but yeah.
And then finally, we did see that there's a premium orange Piggles, which burns for 4 and has its items cooldown reduced for every 4 burn it has. So it's a Piggle Addle. But obviously, it's a lot harder to scale burn, so it'll depend a lot on the remaining items in the kit. I'm assuming that since this is a Piggle, right, it's probably a token too. We're probably getting more cards that generate these premium Piggles instead.
Yeah, so you think there's
They
probably like a second Piggles item that's just
Yeah,
called Premium Piggles, and then it like makes these ones
Yeah,
right,
you
instead, or
something
definitely
like
need a way
that.
to gain toy value, right? Because the
Yeah, yeah,
sponsored apparel is supposed
yeah.
to shield. Right?
It'll be very interesting. I could especially imagine, like if you have sponsored apparel and then you have like a pen of tea next to a yo-yo, that sounds really powerful.
Also
Um,
have this money furnace.
yeah,
Uh,
which also kind of gives you like another QoS type effect to have in your kit.
yeah.
It'll definitely
Also, the
be
like, if this
interesting.
is your only property, it has double value in combat is
Yeah,
scary text, right? Like
for
that's
yeah,
interesting
sure.
it's
text
kind of
right there.
shady, so it prevents you playing Subscraper with it because it doesn't work.
It prevents
Or
you
balcony
playing
too.
fort.
Yeah, or balcony.
So
Yep.
definitely interesting text. The reason why I said the comment about it being very serious was that they emphasized greatly that Piggles is not just a children's dice game. It's a very serious esport that Yerdan is very competitive in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Millions will watch him play this definitely not for children dice game on the Bazaar net, and it takes weeks to master. So we got some throwback quotes for OG salty Hearthstone players like myself. It's fun. I like that. Finally, Stell is coming soon.
That's hype. That one's I'm even more hyped for.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm just
super
gonna
hyped for
slide
Stone.
that one in there at the end.
Yeah.
Um,
I
that will
wonder
be
what
very
that means.
exciting.
I
Yeah, I
wonder if
wonder
that
if
means
they're gonna
next
like
season, like 1 month
drop
from
her
now.
at the start, or if they're more maybe like keeping her as like we're gonna just drop this part way through the
You think it's going to be
expansion or
mid-season? I
something.
think I think no. I think we're not getting her at least till the next season.
I
Don't you
don't
think?
know.
Like,
They said soon. They showed a summer
yeah,
themed. No,
soon TM. Like,
they
it's still going to be
showed
summer at the end
a
of the month.
summer themed Stell skin right at the end of the trailer, themed
Okay,
with
well,
the seasonal expansion. So I'm like,
they've shown skins in previous trailers that are still not released. I'll just say that. Like,
Who knows? Who knows? They're definitely they're teasing us. It's a
okay, fair
fun
enough.
note to get to kind of end the podcast
I will consider
on.
myself teased.
I like the idea of expanding on the concept of crit on Vanessa. I like quite a lot actually because I hadn't. That's what I said with that. I was almost expecting some kind of curveball. I hadn't thought about how underexplored crit as a theme really is on Vanessa until they pointed it out and just goes like, "Hey." Um,
Yeah, I'm trying to think of cards that would be worthy of reevaluation
so
after.
Oni Mask with Vents with Amulet.
Okay.
So you have multicast burn or oh Jesus. Oni Mask with diving helmet with amulet with depth charge.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you get
I really like
the
the cyber psi card is
yeah, it's
very
very
interesting to me.
interesting.
That one's making me think. It's very this mechanic of invulnerability or whatever is really it's really hard to understand the power of it, is how
Right.
I'll put it.
Yeah, you can just look at stuff of the moose, which was pretty strong.
Yeah, but that triggers that triggers at like a specific event, like
Yeah, because
you
but you can
fall to
also look
half,
at
like invuln potion.
which has historically had times that it was both really powerful and times that it's in like no play whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's very
Because this is
interesting.
like I take no damage at 5 seconds. I take no damage at 10. Like, imagine if I
Yeah.
just crit every time, right?
Hmm.
Imagine we solve the crit part of it, right? And we're just saying at 5 seconds I take no damage for a second. At 10 seconds I take no damage for a second, and at 15 seconds I take no damage for a second. Is that good? What is that actually worth? Like, it super depends on what my
I
opponent's
think it's a
build is
big
Yeah.
doing.
problem for pig, right? Because
Well, it
they have
Well,
depends,
maybe,
right?
or maybe
Because
it
a
does
lot of the
nothing if
time it
it's
wouldn't
desynced.
be, for example, because it means that you're immune from 10 to 11 while like double whammy goes off at 12, right? For example.
no, but I mean, pig is the one that has a lot of hard hitting, slow stuff, or just
Right, right,
one
right.
stuff, right? That's what
Yeah,
I'm
but
I
saying.
would
but is
imagine
that
it's
even? But is
like
this even good against that? Is my question. Is like,
I'd imagine
if it
it's
doesn't.
almost like worse for like Vanessa, right? Because she has stuff like Arbalest or Keg that she's very reliant on it hitting when it hits. Um, but
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
but my question is like, if you're trying to stop yourself from getting one shot, is this the best way to do it? Trying to luckily time the window of invulnerability with your opponent's thing. I think that's kind of pie in the sky, and that
Yeah.
then that what it would do more consistently is that it's always gonna like stop you from burning for a second. Like, it's always
I
gonna
think the
prevent.
main thing, right, is what happens when it gets haste. Because when it gets haste, it means that for the start of the fight, you'll briefly have near 50% uptime, but only until like 7.5. which is gonna mean in practice that against, I think this is more anti-aggressive builds than it is anti-slow builds,
Okay, I
because
could see that angle
right,
too. Like
how
it.
with very aggressive builds, if you can say that for 3 of the first like 8-ish seconds you don't get to deal damage, that's bad because they want the fight to be 10 seconds. So it's like 30% uptime. Whereas if it's like a 20-second fight, the uptime has plummeted to 15%. And
Yeah, it's also
if it's
interesting. Some
like
things.
scaling, right, then it gets very diminishing returns because it's front loaded.
Well, I was gonna say that like having to do with scaling, like imagine if you were playing against Poppy Field, for example. If the Poppy Field weapons hit while you're taking no damage, you don't get poisoned. But if you're playing Drum, those are still using a weapon, so they are getting scaling. So it's like this will
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
prevent like Poppy Field from scaling against you, but will not prevent Drum from scaling against
Right.
you, for example. So it is kind of interesting, and there's a lot of like unique card interactions with the invulnerability mechanic where like you don't, for example, you don't lifesteal when they are invulnerable.
Hmm.
So like invulnerable is in a way, in a sense, like extra good against lifesteal compared to versus a restorative item, like
Right.
or restorative item you would still heal even if they are invulnerable. So there is some nuance there, and hopefully that is leading to something interesting.
But I do especially love, like, the one thing that I would have said about my wishes for a Vanessa expansion would be that I wanted it to be something that feels like it connects with a lot of different pieces of her kit. Because that's kind of what we've been gaining from, like, the gang. And it would feel very terrible to gain less of that instead of more of that.
Oni
And
Mask might be
so,
crazy. I'm rereading this
yeah, it's
plus
very
6 burn
interesting.
when you crit. That's
And
that's
especially
so much,
because
right?
it also burns itself and charges on slows. So it's both potentially a stopgap for like lighthouse or for anglerfish, where you now have more options to transition into slow burn, but at the same time it can also be gas for like a weapon crit build if you're juicing up ignition rounds, for example, or
Yeah.
like a lighter, or the vents as I was mentioning, or the depth charge. That there's a lot of chatter, as Sixten would say. We gotta give him some rep, even though he's on vacation. With the fact that this can be utilized for very different reasons. I'm also assuming I'm assuming that if all of these items have the tech tag, and Vanessa already has a couple of items with the tech tag, we might get some relevant tech synergy in her kit too, which I would be very curious to see which direction they take that
Okay.
in. Yeah. And I will say one thing that we did call, obviously, when I was making the plot thicken, I pretended like this had nothing to do with properties or the stuff that we'd been guessing earlier. But I do think it is very noteworthy that these are 2 items already that scale value in ways that are independent of ledger, for example. The fact that sponsored apparel can enable bad blocker to an unprecedented degree while already being something you're likely to play in things adjacent to bad blocker is a really big deal, right?
Can you just use sponsored apparel to make money? Like how like you pay 8, if you have 10 items in your stash, you're making money off of that.
Yeah, but at
Like
the same time, like, then you're giving up the money you'd be getting from like a money tree or something, right?
yeah, well, potentially, but you don't have to choose between those discreetly. You can just recoup 7 of the gold and then recoup the 8th when you sell the money tree.
No, so what I
Like
mean more is that money tree needs you to have open slots at the end of the day, whereas sponsored apparel
yeah, but
wants
this
you to
is
not have open slots.
yeah, but I'm talking about for like the PvE.
Oh, for the
Like
PvE, yeah, sure, that's
like
true.
you could just use it to potentially to make money,
Yeah.
especially if you have stuff that, like, for example, if you have piggy bank or whatever, like if you use sponsored apparel to put a gold onto piggy bank, that gold is actually worth more than one gold. You know what I mean? Like there's more mechanics you can interact with on the value side that could actually make it just be good as like a farming item basically.
Yeah,
Because
but
that's what I'm looking at this, and it's kind of interesting as a farming item.
it also depends when you get it, because it might suffer from the same problem as Gumball Machine, right? 'Cause it's a lot of gold, like 8 gold.
It's a
You
lot
know,
of
a lot
fun,
of
but if
money.
I'm selling back, like if I'm selling back some number of items to recoup the value right away, then it might not be so bad, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, long term is okay, but just saying, like, when you have, like, let's say 10 gold and you find it, you buy it at silver, and then you're like, okay, I need to make 6 gold to make worth of it.
It's also
yeah,
interesting though that you can opt in or opt out because especially versus PvEs, you definitely don't have to play it, right?
yep, yeah, because it
And if
only
you just
triggers if
don't
it's in
play it,
play.
it doesn't take the gold.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
you
I
kind
will
of
note that
feel forced.
you have to make your zero cost piggles at least worth one in order to get a shield trigger from them for Wrist
That's a good
Warrior.
point too.
So you probably do want to do it at least once, even just to generate the triggers. Like I definitely seeing this card makes me think that sharp corners will be a lot better.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
that's like a way to get good
I mean, it'll
value
depend
off
a
of a
lot
lot of
too.
shield
So,
triggers.
what I'm noticing about the premium orange piggle is that other piggles buff, uh, they buff other cards, but the premium piggle, uh, it is in and of itself the thing that wants to get used.
Mm.
Orange is also a color that you get from mixing two other colors, which makes me suspect I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see a green piggle with poison. It depends on if they want poison to be a thing
Yeah, I
that
wonder if
Pig
it
has
might be
evolved.
regen,
Or
right?
yeah, it could be region or healing or something. And we could have like
Yeah.
a purple one as well, theoretically, to mix the remaining two colors.
I mean, I'm definitely hyped for like that. Definitely is interesting to me, like new piggles, and especially having them be like the carry item as
Right,
opposed to
and
like the
and
buff item.
it interacts very interestingly with. So I've had this suspicion for a while that there had to be a reason why they went so hard on the speedrunner nerfs and then never really like rolled that back or anything. And now we're obviously getting way more toys that interact with it. And Premium Orange Piggles is theoretically a burn Adladdle that you can give multicast with the ship in a bottle. Um,
Yeah,
which,
I hope there's a good way to scale its burn
there has
because I
to
think
be.
that
I'm curious to
yeah,
see if it'll be
Hopefully,
like in combat or not, but there's no way they give it that text with no way to scale it, right?
yeah. Okay, well, we're just gonna have to see. I mean, I think we kind of gleaned most of what we can glean from these 5 cards. Like there's
Yeah. They also sent the very handsome shrimp man from the start of the trailer so that he can
yeah, I saw
stare
that.
lustfully at us or whatever he does. I'll show it. I don't know. Just in case anyone still hasn't seen the trailer by the time this comes out, here's our handsome shrimp man, the glint in his eye.
Yeah, get him on the
For
screen.
yeah, all of you
He's
to gaze upon and behold in all of his splendor.
it's shrimply beautiful.
Okay, well, in a way, we were joking about it being terrible timing, but it kind of ended up being perfect timing as we got to do a fun little special segment here at the very end.
Yeah,
This still
As if
ended up
they knew we're gonna record the
right,
podcast.
right, truly. It's Toby. Toby was listening in on us, he knew just when to slide it in there. Oh, no, that was very good. I want to especially give a big thanks to you, Whispers, for having that whole list. I think it made for an extremely fun segment that it's not like we had a ton of material to work with anyways, but that it was really fun, honestly.
Yeah, hopefully we make a change in the world of
Yeah.
the.
Oh, but I'm excited.
Right.
I love so much just how themed all of the expansions are. Like it makes me genuinely excited to just see what other tech items Vanessa get, for example, or if there are going to be more items that kind of then reference Piggles being an esport in the Bazaar world. Like I don't know. It's fun. It definitely makes me more excited to play the game. Kudos. Um, we'll wrap it up with our socials, I suppose. We can start off with the guest as is customary. Whispers, if you just want to remind people, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm streaming pretty much daily, and you can find me at Whisper_Z_live. I hope I'll see you guys there whenever you have the time.
Awesome. And you have any YouTube channel or anything like that, or is it just Twitch?
It's kind of the same username on YouTube, but I haven't really added content, but we'll try to
Yeah.
improve that part.
Okay, and Walter, where have you been hanging out?
You can find me in the chat. Maybe not this week, but
Yeah.
once the new items come out, you can find me in the chat. I'll be backseating whoever. A lot of mornings it's Goose. Sometimes it's Whispers though. I don't like to backseat you because you're smoking, and it makes me feel bad. You're smoking your cig, and you have such a chill vibe. So I don't feel like telling you.
I I got no problem with the back sitting, so
No. I'm not saying you have. I'm not saying you have a problem. I'm just saying your stream is a different vibe. It's like a more chill vibe, whereas Goose's stream is more like instructional, right? So it's like he wants to debate the finer points, whereas you're more chilling. That's what I'm saying. So I feel less inclined to backseat when I'm watching your stream, but that's neither here nor there. Um, go ahead, Metal,
Yeah,
where they can find
you
you.
can find me on twitch.tv/ MetallFenix, 2Ls and an F. It's the same name as on the screen. I'm currently on my vacation, but this week I've been traveling. However, the coming week I will not be traveling anywhere, which is perfectly timed for the launch of the expansion and stuff. So my goal is to kind of get back into streaming and hopefully keep that up. So that'd be fun. I also have a YouTube channel by the same name where I primarily focus on guide-based content. Um, I mention this almost every podcast. I've been having this miserable, persistent cough that is still not giving way entirely. It doesn't interfere much with day-to-day life. It's fine for recording, it's fine for streaming, but it kind of sucks when you're trying to make videos because obviously it interrupts the flow a lot. Since it has been getting better, I think maybe similar to how I did with the Pygmalion expansion, I might try to get out a dually guide before the next season or dually overview since he's not getting any new cards. That'll stay relatively the same. But it'll entirely depend on if I can get through a recording session without coughing my lungs out. So we'll wait and see on that one. There is also a Discord, will be in the channel as well. If you want to chat with me about the bazaar or my videos or the podcast or anything really, feel free to show up there. But all that said, as always, you can find the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or via RSS feed for your podcast listening app of choice. I'm not entirely sure if Sixten will be back next week, but it sounded like he might. So possibly Sixten, definitely another guest as per usual. This episode I might just drop tonight, but we usually upload sometime between Friday and Sunday, sometimes a bit later. It's basically just all guest scheduling, really. But hopefully we'll see some of you in that one as well. And in the meantime, I hope that whoever you are, wherever you are having a wonderful morning, day, evening, or night, and that we'll see you in the next one.